Chapter 246. Pain could be seen in Fan Li's eyes as his chubby frame trembled. This feeling of helplessness filled him with hatred. Lung Ning had already prepared herself to die. She didn't want to live at all. She had never once thought of becoming the woman of that devil. Although they had only interacted for a few months, and their feelings couldn't be considered as deep, they had already established a friendship. And now when Fan Li thought of the possibility that she might die, he couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. It was as though there was a fire burning in his heart. Roar! A low-sounding roar emitted from Fan Li's mouth, after which, he turned and walked to the window of a building not far away. Gazing in the direction of the Lung residence, he saw a group of experts flying through the air. Evidently, they had discovered Lung Ning's escape. Lung Ning. Upon seeing Lung Ning's return, Lung Lin's father coldly snorted. The Lung clan had left this matter to him to handle. Lung Lin was also at the side. She said coldly, "Bitch, don't blame the family for what your man has done. No one can save you now. Lung Ning, you really deserve to die." Another person cursed. Lung Ning stared at the faces in front of her. Her heart was incomparably cold. Was this the so-called clan? Finally, Lung Ning glanced at the emaciated old man on the left. His sinister eyes swept over her body. Without a doubt, this old man was none other than Yen Tai. "Lung Ning, the clan has decided to hand you over to Yen Tai for punishment," Lung Lin's father stated. Disgusting. Lung Ning glanced at him as she coldly stated, "The Lung clan is so powerful, yet they actually want to hand me over to an outsider for the sake of doing something for them? How disgusting. I feel shame for being born in such a clan." After speaking, Lung Ning turned and left. A sinister smile flickered in the eyes of Lung Lin's father. With a single step, his silhouette flickered as he lunged towards Lung Ning. However, Lung Ning abruptly turned and stabbed a dagger towards Lung Lin's father. Her heart had already died. What else was there to fear? The eyes of Lung Lin's father narrowed, after which, his palms trembled as a golden light flashed. He directly grabbed the dagger with one hand and slapped out with the other towards Lung Ning. How audacious. However, Lung Ning's hand directly grabbed onto his arm, allowing the palm strike to land on her body. She spat out a mouthful of blood onto his face, but she refused to let go. "You're courting death." Lung Lin's father's face was covered in blood as he roared in anger. The hand that was holding onto the dagger suddenly twisted and a "kacha" sound rang out. Lung Ning's arm was forcefully broken, but she didn't even let out a groan. Instead, she ruthlessly kicked towards Lung Lin's father's crotch. Scram! Lung Lin's father roared in anger. He swung his arm and flung Lung Ning's body onto the ground, causing a loud explosion. "Don't dirty her, I still want to play with this woman." Yen Tai's eyes were filled with baleful intent as he coldly stated. Only then did Lung Lin's father release Lung Lin. Lung Ning crawled up from the ground, her right arm hanging limply by her side. Her cold gaze swept over the faces in front of her, as though she wanted to remember them forever. "It's my fault that I, Lung Ning, was born into such a despicable clan. If you want to sacrifice me, I'll accept it. Who asked me to be born into your Lung clan?" Lung Ning stared at the members of the Lung clan as she icily continued, "But let me tell you this, Qin Wentian is a third-rank divine inscriptionist, and has already obtained the recognition of the White Deer Institute. He has no relationship with me, and is not my boyfriend like you all think. On the contrary, Bai Lui likes him, and even cultivated divine inscriptions together with him. If you don't believe me, you can go to the White Deer Institute and ask Yen Kong." After which, Lung Ning pointed to Yen Kong, who was standing beside Yen Tai. Yen Kong thought that he would be able to gain Bai Lui's favor, but Bai Lui liked Qin Wentian, and Yen Kong was humiliated. Hence, he took revenge on Qin Wentian, causing a certain someone's death. If you want to settle this debt, you should look for Yen Kong. The members of the Lung clan and Yen Tai all turned their gazes onto Yen Kong, causing Yen Kong's countenance to turn ashen. "You're lying. Even if Bai Lui favors Qin Wentian, she only cultivated divine inscriptions together with him. Don't even think of using such a method to protect him." Yen Kong's countenance turned malevolent. "Hehe. Qin Wentian hasn't returned to the Lung clan for several months, spending all his time with Bai Lui. How arrogant is Bai Lui? Do you think that she didn't have feelings for Qin Wentian after spending so much time with him? Yin Kong, stop lying to yourself. I admit that the Lung clan wants to sacrifice me, but if the Lung clan wants to curry favor with Yen Tai and deal with Qin Wentian, you better think carefully. Do you think you can withstand the wrath of the White Deer Institute? Bai Lui coldly laughed, and as expected, the countenances of the members of the Lung clan changed. Seeing Yin Kong's silence, they knew that what she had said was true. Yen Tai wants to deal with Qin Wentian. If you have the ability, go ahead. But if the Lung clan wants to interfere, that would be interesting. Also, I can tell you now that Qin Wentian is a third-rank divine inscriptionist, and will be participating in the exchange with Bai Lui. Think carefully about his status in the White Deer Institute. Also, if he defeats Yen Tai at that time, I want to see if your Lung clan will regret their actions today. Bai Lui had no way of ascertaining the relationship between Qin Wentian and Qin Wentian, nor did she know that Qin Wentian would be participating in the exchange with Bai Lui. But what she wanted to do now was to threaten the Lung clan, to see if they would dare to make a move against Qin Wentian. As for herself, before she met Qin Wentian, she had already thought that if the Lung clan still wanted to force her, she would die. Hence, to her who was already mentally prepared, death wasn't something to be afraid of. It was just that the appearance of Qin Wentian had given her a ray of hope. The person that Bai Lui is in love with is someone with a bright future ahead of him. Yet, in order to curry favor with Yen Tai, your Lung clan actually gave up on him. Not only that, you even want to deal with him. The Lung clan will definitely regret this decision of yours. I will also curse your Lung clan. The Lung clan will definitely be destroyed in the hands of a bunch of despicable people like you. After speaking, a short sword appeared in Lung Ning's hands. Yen Tai furrowed his brows. Stop her. As the sound of his voice faded, Lung Ning's short sword slashed across her neck, causing fresh blood to spurt out. The members of the Lung clan all had expressions of shock and astonishment on their faces. They leaned forward, but it was already too late. Lung Ning's eyes were still open, as her icy voice rang out, Lung clan, prepare to regret your actions and pay the price for your actions. A clan that has no principles and no humanity will only walk the path of destruction. You. Lung Lin's father trembled as Lung Ning's body slumped to the ground. Her beautiful eyes stared up at the skies, where a white cloud could be seen drifting about, clean and beautiful. Atop that white cloud, Lung Ning could see a handsome silhouette. He always had an enchanting and confident smile on his face, as though nothing in the world mattered to him. What an arrogant fellow! Lung Ning murmured in her heart. Her eyes slowly closed as she left with a smile on her face. Just treat it as a good night's sleep. Once she fell asleep, the nightmare would end. Once she fell asleep, there would no longer be anyone who would force her to marry a devil. Fresh blood dyed Lung Ning's body red. The members of the Lung clan stared at the corpse on the ground, as Lung Ning's curses echoed in their ears. Lung Ning's death had a huge impact on them, especially when they heard her cold and resolute voice. The Lung clan would definitely regret their choice. The Lung clan would definitely be destroyed. This was the curse of the young girl before she withered away. Do you think that death can solve everything? Yen Tai stared at the young girl's corpse, as an evil light flashed in his eyes. Even if you die, I will refine you into a puppet. Who will be responsible for the death of my son? So what if he was the man Bai Lui loved? He still has to die. Yen Tai's venomous voice caused the members of the Lung clan to sober up. Upon hearing his words, their hearts involuntarily trembled. His son. The person who died wasn't Yen Tai's disciple. They finally understood. So it turned out that Yen Tai's disciple was Yen Tai's biological son. No wonder he hated Yen Tai so much. Enough. Lung Ning's father walked over to Lung Ning and squatted down, glaring at Yen Tai in rage. She wasn't the one who killed Lung Ning. She's already dead. Yet you still want to refine her into a puppet? Are you even human? Yen Tai glared at him as a sinister light flickered in his eyes. Lung Ning's father roared, impudent. Get back here. Lung Ning's father coldly glanced at him, after which, he carried Lung Ning's body and walked away. When he saw his own daughter dying here as a father, he couldn't help but feel pain in his heart. As a member of the Lung clan, he had always been oppressed by his clan, and had done many things to let Lung Ning down. But at this moment he truly felt pain in his heart. To think that Yen Tai wouldn't even spare his daughter's corpse. Yen Tai laughed sinisterly as he stepped out, following behind Lung Ning's father. Abruptly, a puppet appeared in front of him, rushing towards Lung Ning's father. Lung Ning's father placed Lung Ning down and walked towards the puppet. At the instant of collision, Lung Ning's father was forced backwards. Yen Tai leisurely walked to Lung Ning's side as he spoke in a low voice, "Even in death, don't dream of peace. And that Qin Wentian as well as that archer, all of you will die miserably, becoming my puppets." Far away, Fan Lu watched from the window. The flames in his body blazed madly, and his countenance contorted as the Empyrean flame bloodline erupted forth. Rumble! His aura rose crazily and he actually broke through at this moment. His eyes were burning with flames, and golden light gradually shone in his eyes. Behind him a bow appeared, a bow bathed in golden flames. "Lung Ning, I will avenge you." Fan Li's voice was hoarse and hoarse. With a deafening boom, the entire room was engulfed in flames. Yen Tai and the rest turned their gazes over, only to see 9 resplendent flaming arrows shooting towards them. Each arrow was as fast as lightning, akin to a beam of terrifying light. "Humph!" Yen Tai coldly snorted. Seeing the arrows flying towards him, he slammed out with his palms, causing a black-colored palm imprint to appear, imprinting itself onto the arrows. However, at the same time, 3 of the arrows changed direction, emitting a humming sound, as though they were wailing in grief. Busy. The arrows shot downwards, directly piercing into Lung Ning's corpse. Abruptly, the terrifying flames engulfed Lung Ning's corpse. "Who?" Yen Tai roared in rage. After which he saw a fatty bathed in flames riding on a demonic beast, transforming into a streak of golden light as he sped away. Chapter 247. Qin Wentian didn't know what had happened in the Lung clan, but he could feel a sense of irritation welling up in his heart, causing him to feel uneasy. He didn't know why he would feel this way, but it was as though he was infected by someone. Qin Wentian also didn't know why he felt this way. It was because little rascal's emotions had infected him. Qin Wentian didn't have the mood to continue spectating the battles in the Hell Arena. After Chu Meng exited, the two of them departed together. Not only that, their rewards this time around were extremely bountiful. As long as you had the ability, the Hell Arena was indeed a paradise, where you could earn yuan meteor stones at a rapid pace. For stellar martial cultivators to cultivate, other than talent and willpower, they also needed to accumulate resources. Yuan meteor stones were one of the most common resources in the world, and were the currency of the entire continent. Not everyone came from a powerful clan, and the majority of cultivators had to depend on themselves to obtain resources. "Where are we going?" Chu Meng asked Qin Wentian. "This place is closer to the White Deer Institute. Let's take a walk there first." Qin Wentian replied. At the same time, he also wanted to inquire more about the Yen clan. For example, he wanted to know how strong the Yen clan was, what was Yen Kong's status in the Yen clan, and how strong was Yen Tai. These were all things he wanted to know. The guards of the White Deer Institute were extremely polite to Qin Wentian, and allowed him to pass. After all, they had personally seen Bai Lui and Qin Wentian walking together, and it was evident that they had a good relationship. Naturally, they wouldn't block Qin Wentian's path, as that would only cause Bai Lui to be unhappy. Upon seeing Qin Wentian, a faint smile appeared on Bai Lui's frosty countenance. "You're here." Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. "I want to find out some information from you. Not long ago, Yen Kong brought a group of people to kill me, and one of them was the Hades you met in the Hell Arena. He's Yen Tai's disciple, and he's the one who created the human puppet. I asked Big Bro Chu Meng to kill him. What's his relationship with Yen Tai? And how strong is Yen Tai?" "Kill Yama." Bai Lui lightly furrowed her brows as she continued. "Yen Tai's reputation isn't very good in the outside world. Others refer to him as a demon. He's sinister and ruthless, crafty and perverted, yet he has an extremely high level of attainment in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. His cultivation base isn't very high, only at the 5th level of Yuanfu. But just by relying on the power of the Tao of Divine Inscriptions, he can easily kill opponents at the same level as him. There aren't as many powerful Divine Inscriptionists as there are stellar martial cultivators. In the eastern region of the Moon continent, Yen Tai can be considered one of the top third-ranked divine inscriptionists in the Yuanfu realm. His personality is extremely eccentric, yet he treated his disciple extremely well. Even his brothers couldn't order him to do anything, yet he was willing to impart all of his knowledge to his disciple. Now that you've killed his disciple, I'm afraid Yen Tai will definitely go crazy. Qin Wentian furrowed his brows. It seemed like the Hades he killed was a troublesome character to deal with. As for Yen Tai, he wasn't worried about him taking revenge. After all, Qing was still by his side. When will the exchange meeting begin? Qin Wentian asked again. There's still over 40 days, you have to work hard. Bai Lui smiled. Qin Wentian lightly nodded his head, but at this moment, a series of squeaking noises abruptly rang out in his mind. This caused Qin Wentian's eyes to narrow. Little Rascal had arrived in the vicinity. Inclining his head, Qin Wentian saw the transformed Little Rascal carrying Fan Lu on his back as they soared through the air. Fan Li's eyes were scarlet red, and a terrifying flame could be seen burning within them, filled with a violent intent. What's wrong? Qin Wentian had a bad premonition. Bai Lui, who was beside him, waved her hands towards the pursuers who were chasing after Little Rascal. Momentarily, the pursuers all disappeared. Bzzz, Little Rascal transformed back into its original form, and its tiny body leapt into Qin Wentian's embrace, as it continued to squeak in a muffled voice. Qin Wentian gently stroked Little Rascal's snow-white fur as he stared at Fan Lu. Lung Ning, she's dead. Fan Li's body was still blazing with flames as he spoke to Qin Wentian. Boom! Qin Wentian only felt his mind shuddering violently. Lung Ning had died? No. Qin Wentian shook his head. This was impossible. When he came out from the Lung clan, everything was fine. How could she have died? However, the look in Fan Li's eyes told him that everything was true. Lung Ning had died. Cracking sounds rang out as Qin Wentian clenched his fists tightly. The lines on his face twitched as his gaze gradually changed, turning ice-cold. A terrifying chill emanated from him, causing Bai Luyi's heart to involuntarily tremble. This young man, who had always been calm and collected, was actually enraged at this moment. It was Yen Tai and the Lung clan who forced her to her death. Fan Le continued. Yen Tai's disciple died, and he went to the Lung clan to demand for Lung Ning. The Lung clan decided to give Lung Ning to him and capture you. Lung Ning was unwilling to be humiliated, so she committed suicide. Qin Wentian's body was ablaze with flames of rage. His gaze was so cold that it seemed as though it could kill someone. It was extremely cold, as sharp as the edge of a blade. Lung Ning was someone from the Lung clan. Yen Tai's disciple died, and if Yen Tai wanted Lung Ning, he should have looked for me. The Lung clan is a major clan. Yet they wanted to give their disciple away? Each and every one of Qin Wentian's words was ice-cold. A terrifying demonic qi emanated from him, causing the hearts of those who heard it to tremble. That's right, the Lung clan did this. Not only that, they wanted to give you away as well, to appease Yen Tai's anger. Fan Lu stared into Qin Wentian's eyes, both of them burning with the same anger. Lung Ning knew that the Lung clan wouldn't spare her. Hence, she told me to flee, but she herself refused to leave. She knew that she was someone from the Lung clan, and no one would be willing to stand against the Lung clan and Yen Tai just to protect her. If she came looking for you, the Lung clan would definitely come looking for you. Lung Ning was afraid that she would implicate you. Fan Li's every word pierced Qin Wentian's heart. Hence, she returned to the Lung clan and told them that you were the person whom Miss Bai Lu liked, and that you would be representing the White Deer Institute in the exchange. She wanted the Lung clan to not dare to look for you, and even if she died, the Lung clan would have no reason to look for you. For your sake, she chose to give up her life. For my sake. Qin Wentian's eyes were filled with pain. He had only known Lung Ning for a few months. For the sake of the Lung clan, she chose to give up her life. She said that this was her destiny. Even if you didn't appear, it would still be the same. Hence, she didn't want you to be implicated. She chose to accept the arrangements of fate. And she even said that she liked you. She likes you. Fan Li's words unceasingly pierced Qin Wentian's heart. It was extremely painful, extremely unbearable. A terrifying killing intent gushed forth from Qin Wentian. Where's her corpse? Qin Wentian endured the pain as he asked. Yin Tai said that he wanted to humiliate Lung Ning's corpse and refine her into a puppet. Hence I burned her corpse. Fan Lu roared in a low voice. I want Yin Tai dead. I want everyone from the Lung clan to die. I will. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath as he stared into the air. It was as though he could see the smile on Lung Ning's face. She was laughing as she scolded Qin Wentian. Bai Lui walked to Qin Wentian's side as she stared into his eyes. If you want revenge, you have to remain calm. Qin Wentian stared at Bai Lui. Her pure and innocent face was filled with a crystalline luster, as though she could see through the hearts of others. From now on, all of you will stay in the White Deer Institute. Regardless of the Lung clan or the Yen clan, they won't dare to cause trouble here, Bai Lui continued. I want to kill Yin Tai. Qin Wentian stared at Bai Lui. Yin Tai is also enraged now. He will definitely bring many experts with him, and the exchange will be held soon. The Yin clan will definitely not allow Yin Tai to die. If you want to kill Yin Tai, you can kill him during the exchange. There's also the Lung clan. The reason why they did such a despicable thing, sacrificing Lung Ning, was to appease Yin Tai's anger, as well as for the sake of the exchange. By killing Yin Tai during the exchange, you've already destroyed their hopes. Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes were as clear as ever. She pulled on Qin Wentian's arm as she spoke. Come with me. Qin Wentian didn't move. Bai Lui turned her head and stared at him, her eyes so beautiful that they could melt a man's heart. Do you want revenge? Or do you want to die because of your impulsiveness? No matter what, the Yin clan and Lung clan are both major transcendent powers in the eastern region. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath as he allowed Bai Lui to pull him into the depths of the White Deer Institute. Bai Lui continued pulling his arm, bringing him to the back mountains of the White Deer Institute. Here there was a gentle breeze, green grass, and a lake. Everything was clear and clean, causing one's heart to be at peace. Stay here and calm down. If you want revenge, you can't be impulsive, Bai Lui said to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian closed his eyes as he drew in a deep breath. Qin Wentian suddenly realized that on the path of his growth, he would meet many people and many things. Some of these people would become his good friends. However, in the martial world where gratitude and grudges were intertwined, he didn't have the ability to make everyone happy. He thought that he could help Lung Ning, but in the end Lung Ning died. Qin Wentian glanced at Fan Lu. Today, wouldn't Fan Lu be in danger as well? Bai Lui sat not far away from Qin Wentian. She could understand how Qin Wentian felt. At such an age, one's blood was boiling. How could he not be enraged when his friend was killed for the sake of protecting himself? However, it was useless. Strength was the root of everything. Qin Wentian sat there, the aura radiating from him gradually cooling down. The flames of anger within him had also been extinguished. However, this was only a temporary concealment. It didn't mean that it had completely disappeared. A light breeze brushed past Qin Wentian's face, fluttering his robes. His eyes were still closed as he sat there in the middle of the green grass. And just like that, he sat there for 7 days. In these 7 days, the violent aura radiating from him had long since dissipated. It was as though he had become much calmer. He thought about many things, opening his eyes. His gaze was clean and limpid, as though it had changed. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at the drifting white clouds in the sky. On top of the white clouds he could see Lung Ning's smiling face. It was as though Lung Ning had seen him at the moment of her death. That innocent and straightforward young girl drifted away with the wind. Yet, it was impossible to erase the memories she had left in the hearts of others. Within Qin Wentian's body, his blood quietly flowed. Numerous blood-colored runes danced about, each of them containing a terrifying tyrannical aura. However, at this moment, they all seemed exceptionally quiet, circulating within Qin Wentian's body. An innate tyrannical aura was contained within, as though it originated from the primordial era, filled with a tyrannical and tyrannical aura. But at this moment, that tyrannical and tyrannical aura was extremely calm, because in the center of the whirlpool, a stream of golden blood flowed about, gradually transforming into a candlelight. This candlelight was extremely weak, yet it was able to calm this bloodline world, causing it to fall into a state of tranquility. This flame was akin to the heart fire. Chapter 248. On the grass patch, Qin Wentian quietly stood there. At this moment he gradually felt a strange sensation. His perception seemed to be growing stronger. He could sense the flow of his blood, the circulation of every strand of astral energy. He could even hear the chirping of insects, and the soft whistling of the wind. Naturally, he could also sense the changes within his body. The violent power of his bloodline had calmed down, revolving around the newly born candle flame, as though it was welcoming its birth, dancing in joy. It was hard to imagine that this incomparably violent power of his bloodline would be so intimate with another power. Not only was it intimate, it was also submissive, welcoming its arrival, like a subject welcoming its king. Around the candle flame, strands of golden light flowed about, causing Qin Wentian to feel bewildered. Were these strands of golden light the power of his bloodline? But what was this newly born candle flame? Why did it cause his perception to grow stronger? Not only that, as the strands of golden light flowed into the candle flame grew brighter and brighter. The violent power of his bloodline was once again roaring, howling, crazily wreaking havoc within Qin Wentian's body, welcoming the arrival of its king. Gradually, Qin Wentian's body glowed with a bright light. The blood in his heart glowed, and so did his 3 yuanfu. Each and every strand of astral energy within his body seemed to grow brighter. The 3 yuanfu pools seemed to be enveloped by a mysterious energy, as the astral energy within them surged and roared. Qin Wentian sat cross-legged as he sensed the changes within his body. He could faintly sense that the newly born candle flame was also a mysterious power of his bloodline. It was awakening, causing his body to undergo a transformation. Little Rascal seemed to have sensed the changes within Qin Wentian's body. Its eyes flashed with a golden light as it slowly walked to Qin Wentian's feet, lying there quietly. Bai Lui and Fan Lu stared at Qin Wentian. They could see that the current Qin Wentian was extremely calm, as though he was enveloped by a mysterious intent. His demeanor seemed to have undergone a transformation, and there seemed to be a faint glow of light radiating from him, giving off a strange feeling. What a mysterious fellow! This fellow always gave her a sense of mystery. His talent in divine inscriptions, his combat prowess, and some of his insights and comprehensions left her in awe. With regards to divine inscriptions, even some of the elders in her clan didn't dare to think about it. For example, reversing the power of divine inscriptions in order to decipher the divine inscriptions was something that even the elders in her clan didn't dare to do. What made Bai Lui even more speechless was that Qin Wentian's talent was so high, and he was extremely hardworking in his cultivation. Someone like him would definitely be able to rise in the future. Naturally, Qin Wentian didn't know what Bai Lui was thinking about. At this moment, he was completely immersed in the transformation of his body, cooperating with the baptism of that mysterious energy. Qin Wentian sat there for another 3 days. The cool breeze gently blew by, and a crisp sound rang out, as though a mysterious energy had just broken through to the 3rd level of Yuanfu. Bai Lui stared at Qin Wentian as a brilliant light flickered in her eyes. He broke through. Who would have thought that he would be so agitated that he actually broke through and stepped into the 3rd level of Yuanfu? Qin Wentian's eyes opened once more. He had indeed broken through, stepping into the 3rd level of Yuanfu, with his 3 Yuanfu expanding simultaneously. Not only that, but his body had also undergone a miraculous change. This feeling was indescribable. It was very strange, but he knew that his perception of everything had become stronger. Not only that, there were even some complicated 3rd-rank divine inscriptions that he couldn't comprehend no matter how hard he tried. But now he felt as though he was enlightened. Not only that, there were some complicated 3rd-rank divine inscriptions that had stumped him in the past. But now, he felt as though he had been enlightened. Everything had changed. The flame of the candle ignited, the fire of the heart appeared. The heart could see one's true nature. As long as he willed it, he would be able to hear voices from afar, as well as the voices in the depths of his heart. Qin Wentian's gaze shifted to Bai Lui as he smiled in a low voice. "Thank you. Why are you thanking me? You were just hot-headed for a moment. Now that you've finally calmed down, there's no need to rush things." A soul-stirring smile appeared on Bai Lui's pure countenance. Sensing the changes in Qin Wentian, her beautiful eyes shone with a brilliant light. This fellow had become even more handsome. There was a unique aura radiating from him that gave Bai Lui an illusion. It was as though there was a ray of light radiating from him, a ray of light that couldn't be seen or touched. Am I good-looking? Qin Wentian asked with a smile, noticing Bai Luyi's gaze on him. Bai Luyi lightly nodded her head. Abruptly, as though she had realized something, a blush appeared on her cheeks. The shyness on her face coupled with her pure countenance made her look even more stunning. Bai Luyi glared at Qin Wentian, acting like a girl. However, she was also silently cursing herself for losing her composure. How embarrassing it was for her to keep staring at a man. However, Qin Wentian didn't mind. He merely smiled as he stared into the distance. Although his strength had improved, it was still far from enough. In the vast Granxia Empire, a cultivator at the third level of Yuanfu could only be considered a low-level character. Only when one stepped into Heavenly Dipper would they have the qualifications to do so. Because he didn't have the support of any major powers, he could only rely on his own strength. In that case, he had to grow stronger. I have to speed up the process of taking control of the White Deer Institute, Qin Wentian mused. Lung Ning's face appeared in his mind once again. It wasn't that he fell in love with Lung Ning, but Lung Ning's death had deeply affected him. Other than the hatred he felt towards the Lung clan and Yen Tai, he also hated himself for being useless. He hated himself for being so arrogant, thinking that he could control everything, only to discover that he couldn't do anything at all. Bai Luyi, can you help me with something? Qin Wentian stared at Bai Luyi. Speak. Bai Luyi nodded lightly. Help me investigate the cause of Lung Ning's death, as well as all the people from the Lung clan who were involved in it. Also, I want to know Yin Kong's movements. I also need a copy of the Yin clan and Lung clan's information, Qin Wentian stated. Right? Although they hadn't known each other for a long period of time, Bai Luyi could feel how persistent Qin Wentian was. Once he set his mind on something, he would definitely do it, and he would do it well. For example, when it came to the study of divine inscriptions, he was extremely outstanding. I'll get someone to do it now. Bai Luyi stood up. Thank you. A grateful smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Bai Luyi didn't owe him anything. On the contrary, it was Bai Luyi who had given him many things when he came to the White Deer Institute. She even allowed him to browse through the secret manuals of her clan. He was truly grateful to this pure and beautiful maiden. Aren't we friends? Bai Luyi laughed. Of course we are. Qin Wentian nodded. Then why do you still like to thank me? In any case, you've also helped me a lot. Your insights into divine inscriptions have been of great help to me. Bai Luyi smiled as she walked towards the direction of the White Deer Institute. Seeing the departing footsteps of the maiden, a radiant smile flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes. Divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian murmured in a low voice. Stretching out his hands, motes of astral light converged on his fingertips. After which, a series of divine inscriptions appeared, as though they were dancing in the air. Gradually, the silhouette of a great rock appeared in the center of Qin Wentian's palm. Qin Wentian waved his hands, and a gust of wind gusted by. The great rock howled in rage as it soared up into the skies. However, Qin Wentian closed his eyes once more. A day later, when Bai Luyi returned to the White Deer Institute, she felt her entire body trembling violently. On the grassy plains, Qin Wentian sat cross-legged as a mysterious energy enveloped his body. Within his body, there seemed to be a bloodline limit that seemed to originate from the primordial era. It was as though she could see a lofty silhouette staring at her with a terrifying gaze, causing her to feel a sense of inferiority. Around Qin Wentian's body, a series of gigantic divine inscriptions appeared. Or more accurately, they couldn't even be called divine inscriptions anymore, because they had already transformed into a gigantic entity. A gigantic black rock floated behind Qin Wentian, exuding a terrifying aura. That pair of sharp and cold eyes of the rock seemed as though it was a real existence. Is this really a demonic beast formed from the condensation of divine inscriptions? Bai Luyi's heart pounded. She didn't dare to believe her own eyes. Fan Lu and Chu Meng, who were beside her, were also stunned. The feeling the great rock gave them was extremely terrifying. Even Chu Meng felt threatened by it. The terrifying shadow of the great rock gradually dissipated, as though it had returned to the divine inscriptions on the ground. Qin Wentian laughed when he saw the look of shock on Bai Luyi's face. I've had a breakthrough these past few days, and my perception of divine inscriptions has grown even stronger. I can now easily inscribe third-rank divine inscriptions. What Qin Wentian didn't say was that not only had his perception of divine inscriptions grown stronger, his perception of everything around him had also grown stronger. Is this a peak-tier third-rank divine inscription? Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian as she asked. Although I can inscribe it, I need some time to do so. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to do so during a battle. We still need to cultivate for a period of time. Qin Wentian didn't deny it. Being able to inscribe such a divine inscription, it's as though it's real. Our chances of winning the exchange this time around will be much higher. Bai Luyi smiled as she walked over and handed over some scrolls to Qin Wentian. These were the information they had gathered from their investigations. Qin Wentian received the dossier as he flipped through it. There were many names inscribed on it. All of them were related to Lung Ning's death. Lung Jian, Lung Ning's uncle, as well as Lung Lin's father. His cultivation base was at the 7th level of Yuanfu, and he had always advocated sacrificing Lung Ning. Lung Mao, one of the elders of the Lung clan, with a cultivation base at the 9th level of Yuanfu. He had the authority to decide on Lung Ning's death, and he was one of the main culprits. Lung Lin, one of the young misses of the Lung clan, with a cultivation base at the 2nd level of Yuanfu. She was the first person chosen by the Lung clan to be sacrificed, and it was precisely because of her and her father's interference that Lung Ning eventually replaced her as one of the main culprits. Names after names were all related to Lung Ning's death. Now in the hands of Qin Wentian, it was like a list of the dead. Chapter 249. White Deer Institute. On the grassy plains behind the mountain, resplendent astral arrows whistled through the air as they madly shot forth. Chu Meng's body was filled with a tyrannical strength. As he drew the bow in his hands, the contours of his arms exuded a sense of unyielding beauty. In front of Chu Meng, a silhouette transformed into a series of afterimages, rapidly evading the incoming arrows. Quick, big bro Chu Meng. Use the power of your mandate of arrows. Qin Wentian shouted to Chu Meng with ease. Okay, be careful. Chu Meng nodded. With a loud shout, the power of his mandate gushed forth, causing the humming sound of the arrows to intensify. An even more terrifying beam of light flashed as an arrow instantly shot forth. Qin Wentian stared fixedly ahead, only to feel a beam of light shooting towards him. Fast, the speed of the arrow was simply too terrifying. During a battle, the slightest bit of distraction would result in death. Hence, in a group battle, if one side had an extremely powerful archer, it would be extremely terrifying. He had to kill that archer first. Qin Wentian stared fixedly at the beam of light in front of him. He felt as though the space around him had stopped moving. Even the flow of the wind could be seen clearly. Even his heart was pounding, as though he could grasp the trajectory of everything. Vizi. The terrifying arrow whistled through the air, brushing past the side of Qin Wentian's ears. The terrifying tearing sound caused Qin Wentian's eardrums to ache, yet his eyes were filled with excitement. Big bro Chu Meng, it's not enough, release more arrows at once. Chu Meng also had an expression of excitement on his face. 3 arrows shot through the air at the same time, the terrifying beam of light causing Bai Luyi and Fan Li's hearts to tremble. With such terrifying speed, they felt that the arrows would instantly land on Qin Wentian's head, yet they only saw Qin Wentian evading at the last moment. That level of danger caused their hearts to palpitate uncontrollably. This kind of training was too crazy. Not only that, Qin Wentian and Chu Meng didn't seem to have any intentions of stopping. Terrifying arrows rained down like a torrential rain. Qin Wentian unleashed his full potential. Gotcha! Abruptly, Bai Luyi and Fan Lu saw the ancient halberd in Qin Wentian's hands shattering the incoming arrows. At the same time, he dashed towards Chu Meng. This madman! Chu Meng and Qin Wentian spat in a low voice. Chu Meng and Qin Wentian had been training madly, day after day, as though they would never know exhaustion. Although Qin Wentian was completely suppressed, both Bai Luyi and Fan Lu couldn't help but feel astonished. Now, when Qin Wentian slashed out with his halberd, the power behind it was many times stronger than before. In fact, it gave people the illusion that every time he struck out with his halberd, it was as if he had become one with the heavens and earth, as well as with the divine weapon. There was no distinction between them, and all of his power was concentrated on his halberd. Even if it seemed like a casual strike, its destructive power would be terrifying. At this moment, the four of them sat down on the grass and surrounded each other. The little fellow lay quietly in the middle of them. The scene was harmonious. This time around, the changes you've undergone after your breakthrough are so great. It's as though you've undergone a metamorphosis, Bai Lui said to Qin Wentian. Yes, there are some changes. My perception is much stronger than before. Qin Wentian nodded his head. Did you awaken your heart sense? Bai Lui asked. Heart sense? Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened as he stared at Bai Lui. Yes, heart sense. Bai Lui couldn't help but explain upon seeing the puzzled look on Qin Wentian's face. The birth of a myriad of thoughts, heart sense and consciousness are in direct opposition to each other. With the birth of heart sense, one would be able to see one's true self, and one's perception of one's surroundings would also become much stronger. One's control of energy would also undergo a metamorphosis, allowing one to move according to their will. Don't you feel that you can hear sounds from afar? Yes, I do feel that way. Qin Wentian nodded his head. He had also experienced it himself. Now that he was in combat, his control over his strength was much more fluid than before. Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of a smile when she saw Qin Wentian nodding his head. No wonder, it seems like after you found out about Lung Ning, your heart was moved, and under a stroke of good fortune, you managed to awaken your heart sense. This is an extremely rare opportunity for stellar martial cultivators. Whatever energy you cultivate, it's as though it's easier than before, because your heart and mind are now as clear as day. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. It seemed like he had indeed awakened his heart sense. However, he could sense that the candle flame had played a crucial role in his breakthrough. The candle flame was formed from strands of golden blood, and it was able to cause the other violent bloodline in his body to submit to it. The power of the candle flame was truly terrifying. It was just that he still had no way to delve into the depths of it. Normally, when we comprehend something, we would always say use your heart to feel it. But now you've awakened your heart sense. That's something only 1 in a million can do. Bai Lui stared at Qin Wentian, feeling some envy in her heart. If only I could awaken my heart sense as well. My archery skills would surely grow even stronger, Chu Meng stated. I think so too. Qin Wentian nodded his head. Big bro Chu Meng, you will definitely be able to do it. Your archery skills are already at a high level. If you can use your heart and mind to feel the direction of your arrows, you will definitely succeed one day. Also, Qin Wentian, don't waste your talent. You should know how powerful your will is. It's something that others can only dream of. If Big Bro Chu Meng had your talent, he would be able to easily kill an expert at the 6th level of Yuanfu. You have to spend more time with Big Bro Chu Meng and exchange pointers on archery. Qin Wentian stared at Fatty Fan Lu as he spoke. Fan Lu nodded his head. Ever since he witnessed Lung Ning's death, he had changed a lot. Even without the guidance of others, he would still put in more effort in his cultivation. Don't talk about others, the time for the exchange is getting closer and closer. Don't you think it's time for you to prepare? Bai Lui rolled her eyes at Qin Wentian. I will accompany you in researching divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. Okay. Bai Lui smiled. She was filled with anticipation for Qin Wentian to study divine inscriptions together. This would be of great help to her. On the grassy hillside, the atmosphere was tranquil and peaceful. Chu Meng and Bai Lui continued to temper their archery skills, while Qin Wentian and Bai Lui studied divine inscriptions. As time flowed by, Bai Lui grew more and more astonished. She discovered that Qin Wentian's rate of improvement was simply too terrifying. Now that they were studying divine inscriptions together, it was as though Qin Wentian was guiding her in their cultivation. Do you want to study the art of puppetry? Seeing that Qin Wentian's attainments in divine inscriptions as well as the Tao of formations had already reached a certain level, Bai Lui asked Qin Wentian. No need, puppets are also divine weapons. To me there's no difference. There's no need for me to waste time on them. Qin Wentian shook his head. So confident? Bai Lui laughed as she looked at Qin Wentian. Do you want to test it out against my puppet? Sure. Qin Wentian nodded his head, as he stood up and retreated to a spot not far away. A crafty smile appeared on Bai Luyi's innocent face. With a flash of light, A puppet appeared, dashing towards Qin Wentian with extreme speed. Take a good look at the strength of your puppet. Bai Lui laughed as the puppet punched out. Qin Wentian lifted his palms as numerous ancient imprints appeared, colliding with the puppet's fist. After which, his palms abruptly blasted out, slamming into the puppet's body. His movements were as fast as lightning. However, the puppet's chest only flashed with a glowing inscription, but it didn't even budge an inch. Bai Lui laughed, "It doesn't know what pain is. You better be careful, who asked you to be so arrogant?" Qin Wentian didn't mind her words, he laughed. After which, he retracted his palms, transforming them into fingers as he abruptly pierced out. Shattering sounds rang out as the puppet's chest exploded, and it was flung through the air. This scene caused the smile on Bai Lui's face to stiffen, as an expression of unwillingness to accept defeat appeared on her face. Momentarily, the puppet flew forwards once more, punching out with its fist, as though a terrifying black dragon was roaring. Thousand Hands Imprint. Qin Wentian lifted his palms, as a boundless number of imprints appeared in the air, colliding with the black dragon shadow. Qin Wentian's palms pierced through the terrifying shockwaves, slamming into the puppet's arm. Another cracking sound rang out as the puppet's arm slumped to the ground. Bai Lui's heart ached when she saw this scene. "Stop the battle." After speaking, the puppet returned to Bai Lui's side, raising its right hand in an attack. However, only the whistling sound of the wind could be heard. There was no explosive power behind it. This caused Bai Lui to glare at Qin Wentian with hatred. "Smelly fellow, what did you do to my puppet?" Qin Wentian couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw the bitter look on Bai Lui's face. Who would have thought that this cold beauty would have such a side to her? Her pure and innocent countenance was filled with hints of anger. It was extremely adorable. Comprehending a single law, comprehending a myriad of laws. The puppet is also a product of divine inscriptions, and its attacks originate from the divine inscriptions. As long as the divine inscriptions within it are third-ranked, it can be neutralized using reverse inscriptions. Qin Wentian smiled, his words causing a strange light to flicker in Bai Lui's eyes. Qin Wentian made it sound so simple, but could it be that he had already comprehended the structure of the divine inscriptions just by interacting with the puppet? In that case, as long as it's a third-ranked puppet, it won't be able to pose a threat to you? Bai Lui asked. Qin Wentian shook his head. A peak-tier third-ranked puppet can directly kill me. How can I possibly come into contact with it? Unless there's someone to help me block its attacks, allowing me to neutralize its divine inscriptions. That's true. Bai Lui nodded, but when she thought of her own puppet being destroyed, she couldn't help but glare at Qin Wentian. What about my puppet? I'll repair it for you. Qin Wentian smiled as he walked forwards, causing a strange light to flash in Bai Lui's eyes. He could repair puppets? Qin Wentian walked to the puppet's side, and after a short period of time, he restored the puppet to its original state. Bai Lui felt a heavy blow to her heart. Could it be that what he had said was true? Comprehending a single law, comprehending a myriad of laws. Bai Lui had personally witnessed how Qin Wentian was able to construct second-rank divine inscriptions with the flick of a finger. In her heart, she couldn't help but think that during this exchange, he would surely shock many in the eastern region. Yin Tai still didn't know what kind of demon-level character he had angered. Although Qin Wentian seemed to have let go of Lung Ning's death, Bai Lui could sense that he was merely suppressing his anger temporarily, ready to erupt at any moment. Chapter 250. In the eastern region of the Moon continent, there were many powerful sects and clans with long histories. However, the strongest power in the eastern region was undoubtedly the Star-Seizing Manor. The Star-Seizing Manor was one of the transcendent powers of Grand Xia, located in the eastern region of the Moon continent. Any command they issued could cause the entire eastern region to tremble. At this moment, within the Star-Seizing Manor, a young man stood on a stone platform. This young man was clad in loose robes and exuded an extraordinary demeanor. Just by standing there, he exuded a unique aura. It was as though he was the center of this world, an existence that could attract the gazes of others. Yang Fan, a heaven's chosen of the younger generation from the Star-Seizing Manor, ranked number 18 on the Heavenly Fate rankings. His cultivation base was at the peak of Yuanfu, and there were few who could match him at this level. Each and every name on the heavenly fate rankings represented those who stood at the pinnacle of Yuanfu. Yang Fan was ranked number 18, which meant that in the entire Grand Xia Empire, the only ones who could defeat him at the Yuanfu level were those ranked above him. How could such a character not be dazzling? In the Moon Continent, there were 4 people ranked within the top 36 of the heavenly fate rankings. Yang Fan belonged to one of them, a heavens chosen from the star-seizing manor. As for the other 3, they were Hua Taishu, a heavens chosen from the Hua clan, ranked number 1 on the heavenly fate rankings. Even Yang Fan and the other 2 paled in comparison to him. Zhan Chun, a heavens chosen from the Pill Emperor Hall, ranked number 11 on the heavenly fate rankings. Zhao Lai, a heavens chosen from the Sky Ember sect, ranked number 28 on the heavenly fate rankings. These 4 were extremely famous in the Moon Continent. They were the 4 great heavens chosen of the Moon Continent. Do you want to go this time? Beside Yang Fan, a middle-aged man stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Although he didn't exude any aura, he gave off a tyrannical aura. Yes. Yang Fan nodded. This place is extraordinary. I have to make a trip there. It's indeed extraordinary, but it's also extremely dangerous. Back then, Hua Taishu entered and came out injured. The more talented one is, the more dangerous it would be, the middle-aged man calmly replied. That's because they have their own goals. How can there be absolute safety in secret realms? Geniuses have strong wills and determination. They would naturally seek opportunities and encounter dangers. But those who are mediocre wouldn't dare to do so, they only care for their own lives. Yang Fan's voice was calm. He had to enter this place and see what was inside. All right. The middle-aged man smiled and nodded. This was the kind of attitude that a proud son of heaven should have to advance courageously. This place is extremely complicated. Even heavenly dipper sovereigns are not allowed to enter. Hence we have no way to follow you in. However, in the eastern region of the Moon Continent, there are many clans that are already making preparations to pave the way for you. Also, for this exchange, we will select a batch of characters with high attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions to follow you in. After you enter, you have to take care of yourself. The middle-aged man slowly spoke. Yang Fan stared ahead as a sharp glint flashed in his eyes. The major clans were all sharpening their blades, but in his eyes, they were nothing but stepping stones for him. Even the 4 transcendent powers had sent people to enter. How could the other clans have a chance? At most, they could only follow behind them and take advantage of the situation. Occasionally, a few powerful figures would appear, but it would be difficult for them to pose a threat. Zhao Lai and Zhan Chun should also be participating. I wonder if Hua Taishu will also be participating this time around? Yang Fan murmured. Hua Taishu was the person he wanted to surpass the most. The top ranker of the heavenly fate rankings held a completely different meaning compared to those ranked behind him. There were countless experts on the heavenly fate rankings, with a total of 360 names. But the one at the very top was undoubtedly the most dazzling. The other rankers on the heavenly fate rankings might be forgotten, but the top ranker would never be forgotten. Yang Fan. The middle-aged man spoke again. Have you ever thought about the matter of a Tao companion? No. Yang Fan shook his head. Based on your age, you should be able to choose an outstanding Tao companion to accompany you on your journey. Currently, there are quite a few outstanding females in the Moon Continent. Mo Qingqing from the Pill Emperor Hall is said to be deeply in love with Luo He. Even the Hua clan is interested in her. Not only that, there's also the younger sister of Bailu Jing from the White Deer Institute, Bailu Yi. Not only that, she's also a pure and gentle beauty with a high level of attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. The middle-aged man continued naturally, if you don't have any intentions, let's not talk about a Tao companion for now. Cultivation will always be your number 1 priority. Bailu Jing. Yang Fan murmured in a low voice when he heard this name. The White Deer Institute was indeed extraordinary. Bailu Jing was a ranker on the heavenly fate rankings, and he was ranked near the top. Oh! In the Yin clan, Yin Tai sat cross-legged while Yin Kong stood respectfully in front of him. Although Yin Kong had some status in the Yin clan, he was still extremely afraid of this uncle of his. This uncle of his was too sinister, and no one dared to antagonize him. The death of Hades was inextricably linked to him, And although he asked his father to plead for mercy on his uncle's behalf, as well as to find a few beautiful women for his uncle, he was still worried that Yen Tai would hold a grudge against him. Have they always been hiding in the White Deer Institute? Yen Tai icily asked. The people he was asking about were naturally Qin Wentian and Chu Mang. These two killed his son, how could they still be alive? They must be afraid of uncle and are hiding in the White Deer Institute, not daring to show their faces, Yin Kong replied. Yen Tai's sinister eyes flickered with a cold light as he continued. I really want to see how long they can hide. The exchange is about to begin. I'm sure that Bai Lu Yi from the White Deer Institute will be participating as well. Bai Lu Yi's attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions are extremely high. She will definitely participate. Yin Kong nodded. Then let's do it during the exchange. I'll get the White Deer Institute to hand them over. Yen Tai sinisterly stated. If the White Deer Institute continues to shield them, I'll make them regret it. Yin Kong trembled with trepidation. He didn't say anything. He didn't doubt that if the White Deer Institute had been hiding Qin Wentian all this time, this uncle of his would even dare to make a move against Bai Lu Yi. In his eyes, he didn't know how to write the word fear. The Lung clan sent more gifts. Yin Kong spoke again. Yen Tai coldly laughed. The Lung clan, the death of my son was caused by Lung Ning. Do they really think that the matter would be settled just because Lung Ning is dead? How laughable, they actually want me to give them a slot. Accept all the gifts and tell them to send more over. Also, before the exchange begins, tell the Lung clan to send over a few beauties. As long as they are the young misses of the Lung clan, I won't accept any maidservants. Old monster. Yin Kong cursed in his heart. This old monster was truly black-hearted. From the start, he didn't even intend to give the Lung clan a slot, yet he still lied to them. And now, he even wanted the Lung clan to send their young misses over? When he thought of how many beauties would fall into his hands, Yin Kong couldn't help but curse the old monster in his heart. He didn't know which pitiful woman would be the one to suffer. When the Lung clan discovered that Yen Tai had no intentions of giving them a slot, how ugly would their countenances be? Only this old monster would do such a thing. This freak didn't care about anything. Reputation? He was already infamous. The major powers of the Moon continent were all preparing for the exchange, and the White Deer Institute was no exception. Qin Wentian, my White Deer Institute has a clan lord. For supreme elders and 9 elders. The clan lord is my great-grandfather, and the 4 supreme elders are all my seniors. The authority to make decisions in the institute lies in the hands of my great-grandfather and the 4 supreme elders. If the White Deer Institute wishes to make a decision, the decision will be made by the 5 of them, while the 9 supreme elders will carry it out. Bai Lu Yi was currently explaining the situation of the White Deer Institute to Qin Wentian. Naturally, it wasn't because she knew of Qin Wentian's identity, but rather because the exchange was about to begin. The White Deer Institute needed to nominate 3 people to participate in the exchange, with 1 as the leader and 2 as assistants. Bai Lu Yi hoped that Qin Wentian would be the leader. Hence, she had to first introduce the situation to Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian suddenly thought of something else. If he wanted to control the White Deer Institute, he would need the approval of Bai Lu Yi's great-grandfather and the 4 supreme elders. To him, this exchange was an opportunity. At the very least, he had to gain the approval of everyone in the White Deer Institute. Only by doing so would he be able to control the institute, which had thousands of years of history. If he only relied on the Azure Emperor token and a single sentence from him, although the White Deer Institute might still treat him kindly, it would be extremely difficult for him to truly control this power. Let's go. The Supreme Elders are already waiting for us at the White Deer Institute. They clearly know of your existence, so you better perform well. Bai Lu Yi smiled at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian nodded his head. Even an ugly daughter-in-law has to meet her parents-in-law sooner or later. What's there to be afraid of? Fan Le murmured, causing Bai Lu Yi to glare at him. Her beautiful eyes flickered as traces of shyness could be seen on her face. Based on what Fatty had said, it seemed as though she was the one who brought Qin Wentian to meet her parents. Why did she feel that something was wrong? Let's go. Qin Wentian had long since prepared his heart for this. Finally, he was going to take the first step. He was filled with anticipation. How powerful was the White Deer Institute? one of the hidden factions of the Azure Emperor Palace. Most probably, he would only be able to fully grasp the full extent of their power when he was in control. In the public square of the White Deer Institute, many people were gathered together. The Supreme Elders were seated on the stage, and to the left and right of them, there were many silhouettes. Their gazes were all focused on a few silhouettes walking in the opposite direction of the public square. A handsome young man walked side by side with Bai Lui, causing many to furrow their brows. Did Bai Lui of the younger generation of the White Deer Institute really have someone in her heart? Qin Wentian and the rest walked to the front of the public square. Relying on his tyrannical perception, Qin Wentian could clearly feel countless gazes on him. These gazes were filled with sharpness, coldness, and gentleness, but there were very few that were filled with kindness. This caused Qin Wentian to smile bitterly. The reason for this situation was most probably because the White Deer Institute had misunderstood the relationship between him and Bai Lui, and treated him as someone she had fallen in love with. After all, Bai Lui's status in the White Deer Institute was extraordinary. What are you waiting for?" Bai Lui's father, Bai Lu Shan, called out. Momentarily, Bai Lui snuck a glance at Qin Wentian, as a smile that was not a smile appeared on her face. She wanted to see how this fellow would deal with this misunderstanding. Chapter 251. Qin Wentian couldn't help but smile bitterly in his heart when he saw Bai Lui unceremoniously abandoning him. After which, he saw Bai Lui walking to the side of the middle-aged man who had spoken to her. This middle-aged man should be Bai Lui's father. On the other side of Bai Lui, there was another young man clad in white. He was stroking Bai Lui's head dotingly, as though she was his junior. Bai Lui fiercely glared at him, but a smile soon appeared on her face as she pulled on the young man's arm. Evidently, the relationship between the two of them was extraordinary, and at this moment the young man's gaze shifted in the direction of Qin Wentian, giving Qin Wentian a sense of sharpness. It was as though that pair of eyes could see right through him. Just a casual glance from the young man actually caused Qin Wentian to feel an intense pressure. Evidently, the strength of this young man was extraordinary, or at the very least many times stronger than him. This person should be Bai Lui's elder brother. Qin Wentian speculated in his heart. If this young man was Bai Lui's fiancé, there would be no way for him to interact peacefully with Bai Lui. Not only that, the way the two of them interacted with each other reminded him of his sister, Qin Yao. Wasn't the way he looked at Qin Yao as well? He liked to pinch Qin Yao's cheeks and rub her head, causing her to glare at him every time. Juniors Qin Wentian, Chu Meng and Fan Lu pay our respects to the various elders. Qin Wentian bowed slightly as he stared at the elders gathered in the training grounds. Chu Meng and Fan Lu also bowed. After staying in the White Deer Institute for so many days, it was only natural for them to show their respect to the elders. No one replied. A faint pressure bore down on Qin Wentian, yet his countenance remained calm as he quietly stood there, neither servile nor overbearing. He, Qin Wentian, had been through so many trials and tribulations, how could he not have this much self-control? "Why are you here?" At this moment, an elder looked at Qin Wentian and asked. This elder's eyes were very big, and when he stared at people, he gave off a natural pressure. Before this junior has been studying divine inscriptions in the White Deer Institute, and under the tutelage of Miss Yui, I've benefited greatly from sparring with her. Now that I've reached a certain level in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions, I'm willing to represent the White Deer Institute to participate in the Eastern Region Exchange in the Moon Continent. Qin Wentian spoke in a tone that was neither fast nor slow. What a joke! Do you think there's no one in my White Deer Academy? Why would there be a need for an outsider to take the place of the exchange? A rather old man berated. He stood at the side, and it was clear that his status wasn't too high. He wasn't someone with authority in the White Deer Institute, but for him to berate someone in such an occasion meant that his status wasn't too low. The White Deer Institute is a major clan in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions, and their attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions naturally far surpass others. Junior has also learned many things from the sparring sessions I had with Bai Lui. However, there are no boundaries to cultivation, and the Tao of Divine Inscriptions is the same as well. Since Qin Wentian is willing to represent the White Deer Institute, it means that he has some confidence in himself. If the White Deer Institute rejects me because I'm not a member of the institute, just pretend that I didn't say anything. What confidence? Are you trying to say that you are more suitable than anyone else in my White Deer Institute? The large-eyed elder's voice rumbled, containing an oppressive might within. Qin Wentian met the elder's gaze, and there was no trace of fear in his eyes as he replied, "Precisely so." The large-eyed elder's brows twitched as a surge of sharpness gushed forth, gushing towards Qin Wentian. After which, he laughed uproariously. "Precisely so. How arrogant." Qin Wentian's entire body tensed up when he felt the pressure bearing down on him. However, he still stood there unmoving. If he couldn't resolve the matter today, how could he even talk about subduing the White Deer Institute? That large-eyed elder was obviously a heavenly dipper sovereign. Not only him, the other elders sitting in the seats of honor were also heavenly dipper sovereigns. In front of the pressure exuded by the large-eyed elder, Qin Wentian could feel how tiny and insignificant he was. But so what of it? He would never forget the reason why he came here. Bailu Yi's father, Bailu Shan, couldn't help but to have a look of admiration in his eyes when he saw that Qin Wentian's back was still as straight as before. At this moment, a faint smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. "Arrogant, huh? Senior doesn't understand me. Yet you say that I'm arrogant. Isn't that also arrogant?" As he spoke, Qin Wentian inclined his head slightly. That calm and unperturbed demeanor exuded an innate self-confidence. The large-eyed elder's heart involuntarily trembled when he saw the expression on Qin Wentian's face. This kind of demeanor and self-confidence, he had sensed it from the other heavens chosen before. And now, Qin Wentian was actually exuding such an aura as well. Is it ignorant arrogance or a true heavens chosen? I really want to see your capabilities. A sharp glint of light flashed in the large-eyed elder's eyes as he commanded, "Bailu Yan, go and test out his attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions." "Right?" A middle-aged man stepped onto the training grounds, standing in front of Qin Wentian. This man was one of the 3 participants from the White Deer Institute, and he would be assisting Bailu Yi. "What kind of inscriptions do you want to spar with? Is it combat, formations, or puppets?" Bailu Yan turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian as he coldly snorted in his heart. What an ignorant junior. His words were truly arrogant. "Up to you." Qin Wentian didn't mind it at all. He just inscribed divine inscriptions over there. Bailu Yan coldly laughed. After which, he waved his palms downwards, causing a rumbling sound to echo out as inscriptions of divine inscriptions sparkled on the ground. "There's no need to compete," Qin Wentian faintly stated, causing the countenances of the crowd to freeze as they turned their gazes onto Qin Wentian. Bailu Yan also halted his movements, staring at Qin Wentian as he coldly laughed, conceding just like that? "I'm afraid you won't be able to." Qin Wentian indifferently spat out a few words, causing the smile on Bailu Yan's face to stiffen. Rage could be seen flickering in his eyes. Arrogance, truly too arrogant. Not only did Bailu Yan feel this way, many in the crowd had the same thoughts. Even Bailu Shan was frowning. Bailu Jing, who was standing beside Bailu Yi, had an expression of interest on his face as he stared at Qin Wentian. However, at this moment, the crowd only saw Qin Wentian lifting his palms. Instantly, inscriptions of divine inscriptions appeared in the air. Or to be more precise, they weren't inscriptions of divine inscriptions, but rather, they were a complete diagram. Qin Wentian waved his hands again as the inscriptions of divine inscriptions continued to shine. In that instant, the gazes of the crowd abruptly trembled. Even the large-eyed elder was visibly moved, his eyes gleaming with sharpness. "Is this enough?" Qin Wentian clapped his hands together, causing the inscriptions of divine inscriptions to dissipate. He turned his gaze onto Bailu Yan as he calmly asked, "Impossible. It's impossible for a third-ranked grandmaster to inscribe divine inscriptions in the air without the aid of a medium." Bailu Yan's heart trembled. He didn't dare to believe his own eyes. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean others can't. Qin Wentian casually spoke as he stepped out. Abruptly, a surge of sharp sword qi gushed forth from him. With every step he took, sword inscriptions would appear beneath his feet. His sword intent hummed as they followed Qin Wentian around him, whistling through the air. Qin Wentian stepped out step by step, as though there was a rhythm to his movements. The humming of his sword intent grew increasingly intense, and with a wave of his hands, sword shadows manifested in the air as a terrifying sword might gushed forth. At this moment he had already arrived at the bottom of the stage. With a single step, the humming of his sword intent could be heard as the boundless sword intent congregated together, transforming into a towering sword might that pierced through the air, aiming for Bai Lu Yan. The terrifying sword might contained a terrifying windstorm as the sound of footsteps rang out. Bai Lu Yan unceasingly retreated, executing his innate techniques to defend against the sword might. However, the sword might instantly engulfed him. Bai Lu Yan howled in rage as his astral souls flared. Terrifying sounds of collision rang out as the sword might finally dissipated. However, the sword chi was still there, causing Bai Lu Yan to be in a sorry state. Qin Wentian stood at the edge of the stage as though nothing had happened. He bowed to Bai Lu Yan, sorry for the offense. Humph. Bai Lu Yan flicked his sleeves and departed. Being lectured by a junior naturally made him extremely unhappy, but he knew that Qin Wentian's attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions were many times higher than his. Not bad. The large-eyed elder spoke again. Being able to inscribe divine inscriptions in the air, I'll give you a chance. For this exchange, you and Bai Lu Yi will act as support and coordinate with each other. Coordinate? Bai Lu Yi's countenance faltered. For this exchange, the Bai Lu clan had initially planned to send 2 people to assist her. But because of Qin Wentian's appearance, she voluntarily gave up her position and gave up her position to Qin Wentian. But now, the large-eyed elder wanted both her and Qin Wentian to coordinate with each other. Yes, little E. For this exchange, Grandmaster Gauze will be representing our White Deer Institute. I'll have to trouble you a little. The large-eyed elder smiled at Bai Lu Yi, his words causing Bai Lu Yi's beautiful eyes to freeze. Grandmaster Gauze has returned? The White Deer Institute intentionally invited him. The words of the large-eyed elder caused Bai Lu Yi's countenance to change. It seemed like the White Deer Institute placed a lot of importance on this exchange. Grandmaster Gauze, come out and meet me. The large-eyed elder laughed. After which, a burst of hearty laughter rang out. The crowd only saw an old man clad in black robes walking out, arriving at the training grounds. He stared at the crowd of elders and smiled. Elders, I trust you have been well since we last met. Back then, Grandmaster Gauze cultivated in our White Deer Institute for a period of time. Now that Grandmaster Gauze has already reached the transformation boundary of 3rd-rank divine inscriptions, I'll leave the exchange to you, the large-eyed elder politely replied. It's my honor to represent the White Deer Institute, Gauze laughed. Qin Wentian, who was at the side, was ignored. The large-eyed elder swept a glance at Qin Wentian as he stated, according to the White Deer Institute's information, there will be many powerful characters participating in this exchange. With Grandmaster Gauze participating, there will be no mistakes. Do you have any objections? The large-eyed elder turned to Qin Wentian as he inquired. Qin Wentian muttered to himself for a moment before replying with a smile, no problem. The reason why he appeared today was to let the White Deer Institute recognize him. Although he had displayed some of his capabilities, the White Deer Institute still preferred to place their trust in an experienced grandmaster. But that didn't matter, he had already achieved his goal. As long as he could participate in this exchange, it didn't matter if he was the leader or the assistant. If he was strong enough, the assistant would be the leader as well. On the other hand, the White Deer Institute had already made up their minds. If he continued to be overbearing, it would only show that he didn't know when to advance or retreat. The large-eyed elder's gaze lingered on Qin Wentian for a moment before he smiled and nodded his head. Today, the people of the White Deer Institute finally got to know Qin Wentian, and their impression of him wasn't bad. Chapter 252. In the training grounds of the White Deer Institute, the crowd gradually dispersed. The large-eyed elder invited Gauze to join him for a chat, but before he left, he cast a glance at Qin Wentian. Bai Lu Shan similarly glanced at Qin Wentian before departing as well. Bai Lu Yi and the young man beside her walked over, smiling at Qin Wentian. All right, this time around, our White Deer Institute's lineup is truly powerful. This is my elder brother, Bai Lu Jing. Qin Wentian nodded his head to Bai Lu Jing, only to see Bai Lu Jing sizing up Qin Wentian. Their gazes locked as both of them nodded. My elder brother doesn't like divine inscriptions. If not, his attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions would be even higher than mine. He's proficient in the martial path, and is ranked within the top 100 of the heavenly fate rankings. Bai Lui smiled, her words causing Qin Wentian's countenance to change slightly. The heavenly fate rankings represented those at the pinnacle of Yuanfu and Granxia, and this Bai Lu Jing was ranked within the top 100 of Yuanfu experts in Granxia. Brother, Qin Wentian is also very powerful. Regardless of his attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions or the martial path, he won't lose to you in the future. Bai Lui similarly praised Qin Wentian. I'll be very happy then. Bai Lu Jing smiled as he looked at his younger sister. How could Bai Lui not understand his meaning? She rolled her eyes. Brother, don't overthink things. The relationship between me and Qin Wentian isn't what you think it is. What is it? Bai Lu Jing stared at his younger sister with a smile that was not a smile, intentionally teasing her, causing Bai Lui to fiercely pinch him. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Haha. Bai Lu Jing laughed when he saw the expression on Bai Luyi's face. No matter what you do, I'll always support you. I already said it's not what you think it is. Bai Luyi's innocent countenance was filled with helplessness. I understand. Bai Lu Jing glanced at Qin Wentian as he smiled. Seems like you still need to work hard. After speaking, Bai Lu Jing turned and departed, causing Qin Wentian to be completely speechless. Bai Luyi's brother was truly an interesting person, but Qin Wentian could tell that this was because he doted on Bai Lui. As long as she liked him, he would support her. Ignore him. Bai Lui turned to Qin Wentian. Let's make our preparations. The exchange is about to begin. Yes. Qin Wentian nodded gently. The exchange this time is different from the past. The various forces might invite some troublesome characters. Be careful when dealing with them. Bai Lu Jing abruptly turned his head and spoke, his words causing Bai Lui to have a look of surprise on her face. Could it be that there was a special reason for the academy to invite Gauze over? What's the difference between this exchange and the past? Bai Lui asked. You've been busy with him these past few days, and didn't even participate in the academy's meeting. Why are you asking me this now? Bai Lu Jing had a smile that was not a smile on his face. After which, he condensed his voice into a thread and transmitted it to Bai Lui. There's news that the secret grounds for the divine inscriptions is the Tao cultivation grounds of a celestial sovereign. Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes froze as her heart trembled. The Tao cultivation grounds of a celestial sovereign? So there was such a rumor. If that was the case, wouldn't the secret grounds this time around cause a huge storm? What about the Granxia Empire? Bai Lui wanted to speak, but Bai Lu Jing placed a finger on his lips, indicating for her to keep quiet. After which he laughed. The outside world doesn't know about this yet. Most probably, only the major powers in the moon continent have managed to gather some information. Not only that, the secret grounds might be opened earlier than expected. After speaking, Bai Lu Jing turned and departed, only to see Bai Lui staring at Qin Wentian with a bitter smile on her face. I initially thought that the exchange this time around would be very simple, but from elder brother's words, it seems that there might be some unexpected developments. Bai Lu Jing condensed his voice into a thread, making it so that those who were far away wouldn't be able to hear him. He didn't intentionally hide this from Qin Wentian. Celestial Sovereign's Tao cultivation grounds? Qin Wentian mumbled. Celestial Sovereign is the title given to celestial phenomenon ascendants. If this news was made known to the Granxia Empire, it would definitely cause a huge storm. I'm afraid that the transcendent powers of the moon continent would make their move earlier than expected. Bai Lui replied in a light voice. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. He had heard of many titles of respect before, such as the Azure Emperor and Pill Emperor. The word Emperor should be the title given to those who stood at the peak of Heavenly Dipper. Let's go, we need to make our final preparations. Grandmaster Gauze is also extremely powerful, we still have a high chance of victory. Bai Luyi's countenance was heavy, yet filled with anticipation. At this moment, there was indeed a dark undercurrent in the moon continent. However, the transcendent powers all chose to keep a low profile. Those who received the news were all trying their best to prevent it from spreading. Although they knew that they wouldn't be able to hide it for long, they still wanted to drag it out for as long as possible. By the time the other transcendent powers of Grand Xia found out, it would already be too late. The day of the exchange finally arrived. The transcendent powers of the eastern region all headed towards the star-seizing manor. The entrance to the secret realm of the divine inscriptions was controlled by the 4 transcendent powers of the moon continent. Hence, the exchange would also be organized by the 4 transcendent powers. In the eastern region, the star-seizing manor was the hegemon of the eastern region. Hence, the exchange would also be held there. Today, experts from the transcendent powers of the eastern region arrived at the star-seizing manor's training grounds. Staring at the majestic aura of the star-seizing manor, many couldn't help but feel envy in their hearts. This was a transcendent power, the king of the eastern region. Normally, they wouldn't even have the chance to enter. But only today would the star-seizing manor allow outsiders to enter. The major powers of the eastern region, the Yen clan, the Lung clan, the Scarlet Thunder sect, the Water Moon Villa, the Demon Cult sect. All the major powers arrived at the star-seizing manor's training field. The Yen clan and Lung clan were neighbors. Yantai, Yenkong and the rest were all here today. Yantai's eyes were closed, and a sinister aura emanated from him, causing others to not dare to approach him. Grandmaster Yantai, is the maid we sent a few days ago serving you well? Lung Lin's father, Lung Jian, asked in a low voice as he walked towards Yantai. The taste is not bad. How many beauties does your Lung clan have? Yantai abruptly opened his eyes, smiling at Lung Jian. His words caused Lung Jian's countenance to sink as he silently cursed this perverted fellow. This time around, his daughter, Lung Lin, had almost been sent to the White Lotus sect. Grandmaster Yantai, there are no more maids in my Lung clan that are worthy of my attention. Lung Jian initially wanted to remind Yantai of the benefits he had received from the Lung clan. But who would have thought that Yantai would directly ask for more? What a bastard! Isn't your daughter one? Yantai glanced at Lung Lin, causing her body to involuntarily tremble. Grandmaster. Lung Jian's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. One quota, one woman. Yantai stared at Lung Jian as he coldly stated, causing Lung Jian's countenance to turn even more unsightly. The people from the White Deer Institute have arrived. At this moment a voice rang out. Yantai's eyes flickered with a terrifying light as he turned his gaze in the direction of the White Deer Institute, instantly locking onto 2 figures, Qin Wentian and Chu Meng. These 2 were none other than the murderers of his son. They actually dared to appear here? Lung Jian turned his gaze over, and when he saw Qin Wentian, his countenance couldn't help but stiffen. Qin Wentian was actually here as well? Although he knew that Qin Wentian was a 3rd-ranked divine inscriptionist, he didn't know how high Qin Wentian's attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions were. Naturally, he wouldn't have known that Qin Wentian would be participating in this exchange. Die! An intense killing intent gushed forth from Yantai. Qin Wentian could clearly feel the killing intent radiating from Yantai. His eyes abruptly shifted in the direction of Yantai, only to see Yantai and Lung Jian standing there. Similarly, within the calm eyes of Qin Wentian, a terrifying killing intent flashed past, akin to a bolt of lightning piercing towards Yantai. Lung Jian felt a chill run down his spine as he stared at Qin Wentian with an unsightly countenance. It seemed like this young 3rd-ranked divine inscriptionist had an extremely strong killing intent towards him. It was most likely because of Lung Ning's death. The group from White Deer Academy arrived at the east side of the Dao cultivation field, directly facing the Yen family. However, there was a Dao cultivation field between them. Yantai's eyes were closed, as though he was contemplating on how to kill Qin Wentian and Chu Meng. At the northern side of the training grounds, there was a majestic wall that was over 10 meters tall. A row of silhouettes appeared on top of it, as they stared at the people below with sharp gazes. Young Fan. The eyes of the crowd gleamed with sharpness when they saw the young man in the lead. One of the 4 heavens chosen, Yang Fan, was actually here today to spectate the exchange. This time around, after selecting the most powerful divine inscriptionists, they would be able to select a few to be sent to the training grounds. These people were none other than the people from the star-seizing manor. Yang Fan's appearance made everyone understand that this time around, the star-seizing manor would be led by a heavenly fate ranker named Yang Fan. Qin Wentian contemplated Yang Fan. This person was around 22 years of age, extremely young, Yet he exuded the aura of an expert, giving off an extraordinary feeling. This person is Yang Fan, ranked number 18 on the Heavenly Fate ranking. A heavens chosen from the star-seizing manner of the Moon continent. He's also one of the 4 heavens chosen of the Moon continent. Bai Lui, who was standing beside Qin Wentian, spoke in a low voice. As for the other 3, they are Hua Taishu from the Hua clan, ranked number 1 on the Heavenly Fate ranking. Zhan Chan from the Pill Emperor Hall, ranked number 11 on the Heavenly Fate ranking, even higher than Yang Fan. And lastly, Zhao Lai from the Sky Ember sect, ranked number 28 on the Heavenly Fate ranking. These people are all heavens chosen from the Moon continent, and are similarly extremely famous in the Grand Xia Empire. Bai Lui introduced them one by one, as though intending to provoke Qin Wentian. She believed that in the future, Qin Wentian would definitely have a chance to ascend to the top of the Heavenly Fate ranking. She already knew of Kiran's battle record of 60 consecutive victories, and he even sparred with Chu Meng. Chu Meng's cultivation base was at the peak of the 5th level of Yuanfu, and he wasn't an ordinary Yuanfu cultivator either. The Heavenly Fate ranking should be Qin Wentian's goal. Not only did he want to ascend, he also wanted to ascend to the top ranks. Only then would he be worthy of his talent. Chapter 253. Beside Yang Fan, 2 elders appeared. One of them exuded a dignified aura, akin to a sharp sword that could erupt forth with terrifying might at any moment. The other elder was dressed in a simple robe, yet it was extremely clean and tidy. His black hair draped over his shoulders, and his eyes shone with a piercing light. Upon seeing this elder, many in the crowd had expressions of shock on their faces, especially those divine inscriptionists. Respect could be seen in their eyes. Grandmaster Fenrir. Several divine inscriptionists bowed to the elder. Bai Luyi's eyes flashed with a strange light as she spoke in a low voice. 4th-ranked Grandmaster Fenrir. The star-seizing manor actually managed to invite him here. It seems like they view this exchange with great importance. Everyone should be here. All the divine inscriptionists participating in the exchange, please proceed to the cultivation grounds. Grandmaster Fenrir will be the judge of this exchange, the sharp-looking elder stated. His voice wasn't loud, yet it contained an intense penetrative intent. Grandmaster Fenrir will be the judge? The countenances of the crowd flickered as numerous silhouettes ascended the cultivation grounds. These people were all from the major powers in the eastern region of the Moon continent. There were no independent divine inscriptionists here. However, this was an extremely common occurrence. For powerful divine inscriptionists, there was no need for them to participate in the exchange. Only those major powers would pay a hefty price to invite them. When the silhouettes ascended the cultivation grounds, many in the crowd exclaimed in shock. Even the gazes of the spectators clashed with each other. They saw that some of the divine inscriptionists who rarely showed their faces were actually invited here. Gaz, you actually came as well. At this moment, a voice drifted over. Gaz's gaze shifted in the direction of the voice, only to see 3 old men with similar appearances. Upon seeing the 3 of them, Gaz furrowed his brows. It seemed like things were going to be troublesome. These 3 old fellows had actually arrived. The 3 brothers of the Li clan, they actually came. Bai Lui furrowed her brows as she explained in a low voice, these 3 are brothers. Very few people know of their real names, but they are extremely famous in the Moon continent because all 3 of them are 3rd-ranked grandmasters. Not only that, they are able to communicate telepathically with one another. As long as one of them starts to inscribe a divine inscription, the other 2 would be able to help him complete the inscription. The eyes of those from the various major powers all narrowed. This was bad. They had initially thought that Yen Tai would have the highest chance of obtaining first place. But now, Gaz was representing the White Deer Institute, the 3 brothers of the Li clan were representing the Watermoon Mountain Villa, and the representatives of the Demon Cult and Scarlet Thunder sect were all extremely powerful characters. The members of the Yen clan and Lung clan both frowned. If this was the case, the pressure on Yen Tai would be immense. Other than Yen Tai, the Lung clan had also invited a divine inscriptionist to participate. However, it was clear that they were only here to join in the fun. It was already impossible for them to enter the top 3. Damn it, it seems like the rumors are true. We're going to miss this opportunity. Many cursed in their hearts. However, Yin Tai didn't care about Gauze or the three brothers of the Li clan. His eyes were fixed on Qin Wentian. The heavens must be on his side. Qin Wentian actually dared to participate in the exchange. If that was the case, Yin Tai would definitely find an opportunity to kill him. However, he didn't know what rules Fenrir would set to determine the victor of this exchange. There were 9 camps of participants, and each camp consisted of 3 people, for a total of 27 participants. They represented the 9 major powers of the Moon continent. Grandmaster Fenrir stood on top of the high walls, smiling as he gazed downwards. I've once entered the refinement grounds of divine inscriptions, and have a deep impression of it. Within the refinement grounds, there are many traps, formations, and powerful puppets. In any case, it's impossible to guard against them. Sadly, I don't have the chance to enter now, or I would definitely want to try it again. Grandmaster Fenrir wasn't only a 4th-ranked Grandmaster. He was also a Heavenly Dipper Sovereign. Hence, he had no way to enter the refinement grounds of divine inscriptions. Of the 18 training grounds in Granxia, there were training grounds for cultivators below Yuanfu, as well as training grounds for Heavenly Dipper Sovereigns. The training grounds for divine inscriptions in the Moon continent were for Yuanfu cultivators. Today I will conduct 3 tests on all of you. Grandmaster Fenrir stepped out, standing in the air. With a wave of his hands, a gigantic diagram descended from the skies. Rumble! A terrifying sound reverberated through the air. The crowd only saw that the gigantic diagram had actually materialized, resembling a gigantic piece of earth descending upon the cultivation grounds, causing the entire area to tremble uncontrollably. The gazes of the crowd instantly landed on the diagram, only to see that there were mountains and rivers on the diagram. It was actually an all-encompassing diagram. In the refinement grounds there are countless divine inscriptions and traps. It's impossible to guard against them all. I have no way to reach that level, but I will still inscribe many divine inscriptions here. All of you will take turns to search for the divine inscriptions until no one is able to find the divine inscription. As for your results, I will remember them in my heart. Fenrir continued. At this moment, all of you can stand on the platform. You can choose whichever one you want to start with. There are many divine inscriptions. As long as you can find one, it will automatically vanish. Let me go first. Among the 3 brothers of the Li clan, the 3rd brother indifferently spoke, after which he pointed his finger forward and instantly, astral light flashed as the image of a phoenix soared up into the air, soaring into the clouds before disappearing from sight. Beside him was Yin Tai. There was naturally no need for Yin Tai to act personally. Someone beside him stepped out and pointed to a direction where a ferocious tiger could be seen roaring. After which, it was the Lung clan's turn. After that, it was the representatives from the Scarlet Thunder sect, and after that, to the right of Qin Wentian's group, the demon cult also sent out 3 representatives. What made everyone bewildered was that the leader of these 3 was actually a young man. His eyes were closed in meditation, and the middle-aged man beside him stepped out as he activated a divine imprint. Let me do it. After the demon cult, Bai Lui stepped out. She stood at the edge of the divine inscription and pointed her finger forward. Over there, the shadow of a long spear erupted forth. In the blink of an eye, the divine inscriptions of the 9 great factions had already been discovered. Gradually, after the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, there were people who were unable to find the divine inscriptions. However, there were only 3 people in each faction. If one of them failed, the other 2 would be able to participate. After 9 rounds, there were already 81 divine inscriptions. And now, when it was the turn of the Han clan from the eastern region, not a single one of the 3 grandmasters were able to find the divine inscription. They couldn't help but feel extremely embarrassed. Evidently, they had been thoroughly defeated in the first round. My Han clan withdraws from this exchange. An elder of the Han clan spoke, causing the 3 of them to feel somewhat embarrassed. They could only dejectedly walk down the stage. The Han clan's preparations were obviously insufficient. The 2nd elder of the Li clan stepped forward, waving his hand as he imprinted his palm onto a certain location. Instantly, a resonance was triggered as another palm imprint flew out from that location. This was none other than a divine inscription. As for the Yin clan, Yin Tai personally acted, searching for the divine inscriptions. The Lung clan had no way of finding the divine inscriptions, Hence they withdrew from the competition. Their hopes were all on Yen Tai. After 2 rounds, even Bai Lui had no way of finding the divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian glanced at Gauze, only to see that Gauze was extremely calm. His eyes were closed as he meditated. Seeing that Bai Lui was in a difficult position, Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice, "Withered tree." Bai Lui shifted her gaze onto a withered tree. With a wave of her hand, a hidden divine inscription appeared. She turned her head and smiled bitterly at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian lightly nodded his head in consolation. He would act next to prevent Bai Lui from feeling awkward. After a few more rounds, more and more people withdrew. Although Grandmaster Fenrir didn't say who would be eliminated, they knew that they had no hope of becoming one of the top 3. Of the 9 transcendent powers, only 5 remained. They were Qin Wentian from the White Deer Institute, the Li clan from the Watermoon Mountain Villa, Yen Tai from the Yen clan, the young man from the Demon Cult, and the white-bearded old man from the Scarlet Thunder sect. This white-bearded old man was also a famous 3rd-ranked grandmaster, and his name was Zhuo Yu. He knew that he wouldn't be able to break through to the Heavenly Dipper realm. Hence he focused all his efforts on researching divine inscriptions. The remaining participants are so powerful, to think that they could still find the divine inscriptions. The spectators mused, only to see the 3rd elder of the Li clan waving his hand as he found another divine inscription. Yen Tai wasn't willing to be outdone, and so did Zhuo Yu and the young man from the Demon Cult. Qin Wentian waved his hand as a swordfish appeared in the water. How powerful! It seems like even little E is inferior to him in the field of divine inscriptions. In the direction of the White Deer Institute, Bai Lushan commented in a low voice. Bai Lui had already withdrawn. It was evident that she had no way of finding the divine inscriptions. Even Gauze's eyes flickered. He was somewhat taken aback by Qin Wentian's ability. Finally, when it was Zhuo Yu's turn again, he could no longer find the divine inscriptions. After which, he calmly stated, "There are no more divine inscriptions." "Are you sure?" Fenrir asked with a smile on his face. Zhuo Yu furrowed his brows before nodding his head. "I'm sure." "What about you?" Fenrir glanced at the young man below Zhuo Yu, only to see the young man abruptly pointing his finger forward. With a deafening boom, an ancient tree shattered into pieces, and a flash of saber light shot out. This scene caused Zhuo Yu's countenance to stiffen as he sighed in his heart. However, he didn't take the initiative to withdraw. At this level, the only thing he lacked was his perception. "What about you guys?" Fenrir glanced at Qin Wentian, only to see Gauze opening his eyes as he replied, "There are more." Qin Wentian, who was about to make a move, gave up on the idea when he saw Gauze walking towards him. Gauze waved his hands as he found another divine inscription, causing Zhuo Yu's countenance to turn increasingly unsightly. After which, the 3 Li clan elders also found another divine inscription. When it was Yen Tai's turn, he frowned as he stated, "There shouldn't be any more." Zhuo Yu skipped the divine inscription. The young man furrowed his brows as he shook his head, but he didn't say anything. Gauze narrowed his eyes as he stared ahead. Seeing that Gauze wasn't replying, Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice, "Old Gu, below the slope. Do I need you to remind me?" Gauze frowned as he stared at Qin Wentian. After which, he abruptly waved his palms as the shadow of a flood dragon broke through the surface of the water, causing the spectators to sigh in admiration. "Old Gu, Qin Wentian is doing this out of goodwill." Bai Lui spoke up for Qin Wentian. Although Old Gu was a senior, Qin Wentian couldn't help but feel that he had lost face by reminding Qin Wentian. "Haha, the last divine inscription." The Li clan elders laughed as they blasted out another divine inscription. Gauze stared at them as he nodded his head. "Seems like the skills of the 3 of you aren't bad." "Is there no more?" Fenrir asked in the air. "No more." The 3 Li clan elders replied in unison. "No more," Gauze replied with certainty. Fenrir casually laughed. However, just when the spectators thought that the divine inscription had ended, Qin Wentian waved his hands as a beam of sword light slashed onto the divine inscription. After which, he slashed out horizontally, causing 2 beams of sword light to converge as they intertwined with each other. In an instant, a sharp sword pierced through the air, emitting a terrifying sword keening. In that instant, the eyes of the spectators gleamed with sharpness as they stared at the young man waving his hands. Gauze's countenance sank. Qin Wentian's countenance was calm. If Gauze hadn't spoken earlier, he would still have reminded him. But since there was no need for him to do so, he would personally act. Chapter 254. Qin Wentian had always respected Gauze. Earlier, when he saw Gauze muttering to himself, he reminded him out of goodwill. However, Gauze's reply was clearly unfriendly. Now, Qin Wentian was also extremely decisive in his actions. He understood that Gauze felt that his reminder would hurt the face of a senior, and hence, he was angered. However, face was something that had to be fought for. Hence, earlier he had decisively acted. Although he knew that his actions would offend Gauze, he didn't care. When I respect you, I'll refer to you as old goo. But if you don't need to respect me, then I'll show you some self-respect. Numerous gazes landed on Qin Wentian, and there was no lack of sharpness in their gazes. This test tested one's familiarity with divine inscriptions, as well as the strength of one's perception. Although this didn't prove that Qin Wentian's attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions were higher than those of the older generation, it was clear that his perception was extremely sensitive. Bai Lui turned her gaze onto Qin Wentian. This fellow's personality was still the same as before. Although he appeared to be easygoing and amiable, who could read his arrogance? In the air, Fenrir had a faint smile on his face as he glanced at Qin Wentian. Being able to stand out amongst so many third-ranked grandmasters, this young man was definitely worthy of attention. Yin Tai's countenance stiffened as a sinister light flashed in his eyes. He didn't expect that Qin Wentian would have such an ability. But so what of it? Qin Wentian would still have to die. Die in his hands and be refined into a human puppet. In the direction of the Lung clan, the countenances of many were unsightly. This was especially so for Lung Jian and the rest. They were all thinking in their hearts that this must have been an accident. Maybe Qin Wentian's luck wasn't bad, allowing him to sense the existence of the last divine inscription. Haha. There's actually a fish that slipped through the net. The three brothers from the Li clan laughed. They were taken aback. They actually hadn't discovered the existence of the last divine inscription. My mistake. Gauze frowned, but he soon regained his composure as he spoke in a low voice. Your luck isn't bad. You managed to find the last divine imprint. Fenrir, who was in the air, smiled. His expression was calm as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian did not say a word. He waved his palm once again and in an instant, beams of light flashed and slashed at the mountain range in the pattern. A terrifying commotion actually occurred. Rumbling sounds rang out, accompanied by a humming sound. The roar of a dragon pierced through the 9 heavens. The crowd could only see the shadow of a demonic dragon roaring at the heavens as it soared into the clouds. At this instant, silence filled the air. Qin Wentian's actions caused the smile on Gauze's face to freeze. That smile of his was extremely unsightly and stiff. First, he said that he was careless, then he said that Qin Wentian's luck was not bad, and that it was the best divine rune. But after which, Qin Wentian discovered yet another divine inscription. Had he, Gauze, overlooked it, or was it that he, Gauze, couldn't find it? His luck is indeed not bad. Qin Wentian laughed in a low voice. His voice caused Gauze to feel extremely embarrassed. Qin Wentian luck? Below the Taoist grounds, in the direction of the White Deer Institute, the large-eyed elder was speechless as he witnessed this scene. Qin Wentian's capabilities seemed to have exceeded his expectations. However, if he did this, Qin Wentian would definitely offend Gauze. This fellow is too arrogant, the large-eyed elder commented in a low voice. This Gauze is arrogant. It would be interesting for the two of them to meet. Bai Lu Jing, who was at the side, laughed in a low voice. The large-eyed elder glanced at him before asking Jing, what do you think of this young man? Bai Lu Jing casually replied, I don't have any requests, as long as little E likes him. You pamper little E too much. The large-eyed elder shook his head as he laughed. Anything else? At this moment, Fenrir, who was in the air, stared at Qin Wentian. Junior doesn't know. Qin Wentian replied. He couldn't find any, but that didn't mean he didn't have any. Fenrir was a 4th-ranked grandmaster. It wasn't impossible for him to inscribe some extremely well-concealed divine inscriptions. Fenrir nodded his head. He didn't say anything else. All of you can leave. The crowd walked down the painting, only to see Fenrir waving his hands as the painting floated up into the air and was kept by him. As for the first test earlier, he had already seen it clearly. Not only him, everyone present had seen it clearly. The three brothers of the Li clan were all extremely powerful. Gauze, Yentai, Qin Wentian, as well as the young man from the demon cult, were the strongest group of people here. In terms of overall strength, the two strongest powers were none other than the three brothers of the Li clan and the White Deer Institute. The three brothers of the Watermoon Mountain Villa were all extremely powerful. As for the White Deer Institute, there was no need to mention Qin Wentian and Gauze. As for Bai Lui, she was also extremely powerful. However, no one knew how strong Qin Wentian was in other aspects other than his perception. In the air, Fenrir laughed. There are many divine inscriptions and formations within the refinement grounds. Once you enter, you will inevitably be trapped within. Hence, the second test will test your ability to break out of the formation. I've already refined a divine weapon into an all-encompassing formation. Let's see how long it takes for you all to break out of the formation. Naturally, there's also danger within the formation. If you all die within, I won't be responsible for it. If you all wish to back out now, it's still not too late. As the sound of Fenrir's voice faded, Yentai's eyes flashed with a cold light. Since there was danger within the formation, what harm was there in killing someone within? He wanted Qin Wentian to die in this exchange. The second round of the test would be his chance to do so. So what if his perception was sharp? Yentai was confident that his attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions far surpassed that of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's perception was so strong that it could only prove that he had a lot of potential in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. But what was the point of having potential if one died? No one retreated. Fenrir smiled as he waved his hands. A moment later, a flag appeared in front of him. This flag fluttered in the wind as it expanded in size. A gust of wind gusted by as a terrifying aura permeated the area. Go. Only to see Fenrir waving his hand as the flag swept through the area. A raging wind gusted on the bodies of the crowd, making it hard for them to open their eyes. Suddenly, Qin Wentian discovered that the space around him had changed. He was actually in a different dimension. This place was filled with darkness and his vision was extremely blurry. His perception was also restricted, unable to extend it out. Bai Lui, Qin Wentian called out. I'm here, Bai Lui replied. Following the direction of the voice, Qin Wentian stretched out his hands and pulled Bai Lui along. This formation is extremely powerful, be careful. Busy abruptly, a ball of fire appeared in the air, descending towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's countenance sank as he blasted out with his palms. Momentarily, the ball of fire was extinguished, transforming into a cloud of green smoke. However, this was only the beginning. After which, more balls of fire rained down from the skies, raining down on Qin Wentian and Qin Wentian. A myriad of formations, how marvelous! Qin Wentian guessed that this formation must have surpassed the third level. This formation is known as the 9-layered Thunderfire Dragon Trapping Formation. Although it has the foundation of a 4th-level formation, I've restricted its power to the 3rd level. All of you can use whatever methods you have to defend against it. Think of a way to break out of this formation. Fenrir's voice rang out clearly in the ears of the crowd within the formation. As the sound of his voice faded, terrifying lightning flashed within the formation. Crackling sounds echoed as lightning and fire rained down from the skies, as though doomsday had arrived. Puppet. Bai Lui instantly released her own puppet, which soared up into the skies, blocking above them. Staring at the lightning and fire raining down on them, Bai Lui stated, if we don't have the assistance of our puppets, even if we can defend against these attacks, our astral energy would be depleted. We have to think of a way to break out of this formation. Grandmaster Gauze. Bai Lui called out. Gauze had a high level of attainment in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. He would definitely have a powerful puppet to aid them in defending. No one replied. The puppet in the air continued to defend against the attacks, but they didn't dare to move around recklessly. Grandmaster Gauze, if you can hear me, please join us, Bai Lui called out again. Bai Lui, I need to think of a way to break out of this formation. Be careful, Gauze's voice drifted over, causing Bai Lui to freeze. Was Gauze doing this on purpose? Be careful. Abruptly, Qin Wentian shouted, pulling Bai Lui along as they dodged to the side. A beam of sword light flashed, slashing down on the spot where Bai Lui was standing a moment ago. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over, only to see a human-shaped puppet. Qin Wentian lifted his palms, as the thousand hands imprint whistled through the air, blocking the incoming lightning and fire. His countenance was filled with a cold glint of light. Don't move around recklessly. There's a divine inscription formation beneath your feet. You might step into a trap at any moment. Qin Wentian involuntarily pulled Bai Lui back. Bai Lui once again released another puppet, but at this moment, the eyes of the other human-shaped puppets gleamed with a sinister light as they stared in their direction. Go look for gauze, Qin Wentian instructed Bai Lui. No, this Yantai is extremely difficult to deal with, and he has too many puppets. You won't be able to deal with him alone, Bai Lui hurriedly replied. Don't worry, I'll only be distracted if you stay here. Don't worry, he won't be able to do anything to me, Qin Wentian replied. Bai Lui's beautiful countenance turned unsightly as she called out, Grandmaster Gauze, where are you? The two of us will meet up with you. No one replied, but one of the puppets dashed over with great speed, slashing out with a great saber, aiming for Bai Lui. Bai Lui dodged, but at this moment, an intense sense of danger washed over her. She turned and stepped out. Careful! Qin Wentian sensed that there was a trap ahead, and he hurriedly pulled back, only to see flames erupting from his feet. Bai Lui panicked, yet another black-colored palm imprint silently blasted towards her. Bai Lui seemed to have sensed something. She lifted her palms to attack, but she only heard a muffled groan as her body violently slammed into Qin Wentian, who was behind her. Yantai, I will definitely kill you today. Qin Wentian embraced Bai Lui, causing her body to tremble visibly, after which she could hear the whistling sound of the wind. Qin Wentian was actually using his movement technique to rapidly shuttle through the formation. This was an extremely dangerous move, as every step within the formation was fraught with danger. If one was the slightest bit careless, they would fall into danger. Qin Wentian was also extremely depressed. Inside the formation, he was so cautious that he couldn't unleash his full potential. If not, he could easily destroy the puppets if he faced them head-on. Chapter 255. Qin Wentian relied on his powerful perception to evade many of the traps, yet he still had to deal with the thunderfire that rained down from the skies. Hugging onto Qin Wentian's delicate body, he was still in a fluster, and even suffered a blow to his back, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. If it weren't for the fiend transformation art, he would have been heavily injured. Put me down, I'm fine, Bai Lui called out in a low voice, as she landed on the ground. Her beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian. Are you alright? I'm fine. Protect me, I'll break the formation. Qin Wentian replied in a light voice. The divine energy within his body surged, and with the lift of his palms, thousands of palm imprints blasted out. At the same time, divine inscriptions manifested, and the shadow of the great rock shone with a resplendent light. Upon seeing Qin Wentian inscribing the divine inscriptions, Bai Lui released her astral souls as a divine weapon appeared in her hands. Qin Wentian's countenance grew heavy. He knew that ordinary divine inscriptions wouldn't be able to withstand the destructive energy contained within. He needed to inscribe a powerful third-rank divine inscription in order to protect him. Not long after, with Qin Wentian and Bai Lui in the center, the shadow of the great rock manifested. Qin Wentian sat cross-legged and abruptly closed his eyes. The great rock would defend against the incoming attacks, and in that case, he would be able to break the formation with peace of mind. The candle flame in his body quietly burned, and Qin Wentian's perception probed his surroundings, as though he wanted to see through the entire formation. The complex lines of interweaving divine inscriptions caused Qin Wentian to tremble in awe. A chain of 100 divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian's heart pounded rapidly. Indeed, the ancient manual stated that if one wanted to raise their Tao of divine inscriptions by a single level, the difficulty was no less than 100 times. The difference was akin to stepping from Yuanfu to Heavenly Dipper. The difficulty was extremely high. The Tao of formations was born from divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian could sense that within this fourth-ranked formation, there were a large number of third-ranked divine inscriptions. The divine inscriptions were all linked together, as though hundreds of third-rank divine inscriptions were linked together to form this tyrannical formation. If I want to break out of this formation, I would need to unravel all the hundreds of divine inscriptions. That's simply impossible. If I want to break out of this formation, I'm afraid I have to first unravel some of the divine inscriptions and open up a gap in the formation. Qin Wentian thought to himself, didn't Grandmaster Fenrir have the same idea? As long as they could break out of the formation, it would be fine. There was no need to destroy the entire formation. There are strong and weak divine inscriptions. Where the divine inscriptions are weak, that's where the divine inscriptions are weak. Qin Wentian continued his search, and as his soul sense spread out, he could vaguely sense the presence of several people within the formation. The three Li brothers were working together to break out of the formation. Their movements were incomparably skillful, and their coordination was exquisite. This caused Qin Wentian to sigh in his heart. Most probably, these three would be the first to break out of the formation. Other than them, Gauze had also appeared. He was protected by three puppets, and his position was actually very close to the location where Bai Lui was attacked. Although he had the ability to help, he chose to focus on breaking the formation alone, and couldn't be bothered to take care of others. What a good Grandmaster Gauze! A cold light flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes. This Gauze seemed to be someone who placed great importance on fame and fortune. He wanted to compete with the three Li brothers and be the first to break out of the formation. As for Yin Tai, he was even more cautious. There were actually many puppets surrounding him, protecting him in a tight formation. No one would be able to launch a sneak attack on him. Yin Tai's personality was extremely sinister and ruthless. Hence, he would always be on guard against others plotting against him. This made Qin Wentian sigh in his heart. It would be extremely difficult to kill him here. The young man from the demon cult, as well as Zui Yu and the rest from the Scarlet Thunder sect, also appeared within Qin Wentian's perception. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with sharpness as he saw a terrifying dagger directly piercing through Zui Yu's heart. This was the doing of the young man from the demon cult. His eyes gleamed with a demonic light as he tossed Zui Yu into a ball of fire, incinerating his corpse as he stowed away his interspatial ring. The three from the Scarlet Thunder sect had all fallen. The young man didn't seem to want to give up. His eyes flashed with a sinister light as he continued searching for other prey. As long as he killed one more person, the top three would be left. At this moment, the young man's brows twitched. It was as though he could sense that someone was spying on him. Abruptly, a demonic light flickered in his eyes. Qin Wentian retracted his perception. His heart was like a mirror. He had a general understanding of these people. Not a single one of them was a good person. There's a gap. Qin Wentian's perception sensed the weakness of the divine inscriptions, but he still didn't open his eyes. He needed to get a clear grasp of the situation before he could unravel it. Bai Lui stared at the shadow of the great rock in the air, feeling it growing weaker and weaker. An expression of anxiety flashed through her eyes. That's enough. At this moment, Qin Wentian abruptly opened his eyes as he spoke. He stood up and stepped towards a certain direction. Stretching out his 5 fingers, he pointed forward as divine inscriptions glowed with resplendent light, accompanied by the sound of popping sounds. Reverse divine inscriptions. Bai Luyi's heart trembled. After following Qin Wentian for so long, she initially thought that she would be able to display her brilliance in this exchange. Who would have thought that Gauze would be the first to arrive at the White Deer Institute, followed by the appearance of the 3 Li clan brothers, the young man and Zui Yu, not to mention Yin Tai. All of these caused her to become an inconspicuous character, causing her to feel a heavy blow. Naturally, the majority of these people were of the older generation. Only Qin Wentian and the young man from the demon cult were extraordinary. In terms of potential, no one could compare to them. The spectators outside had no way to see what was happening within the formation. They could only see the flags fluttering in the wind, as well as the whistling of the wind. The entire Taoist cultivation grounds was enveloped by the wind, making it impossible to see what was happening within. Right at this moment, in a certain direction, the dense fog and strong winds stirred up, following which, a loud rumbling sound rang out as 3 silhouettes broke through the air and stepped out of the formation. The 3 brothers of the Li clan. These 3 brothers have a telepathic connection, and their proficiency in divine inscriptions is on par with each other. Their teamwork is indeed the strongest. The crowd mused as they stared at the three brothers of the Li clan. Those from the Watermoon Mountain Villa all had smiles on their faces. It seemed like they had the highest chance of obtaining first place in this exchange. Old man Gauze hasn't come out yet? The three brothers of the Li clan stared in the direction of the White Deer Institute, their eyes flickering with a hint of provocation. He's out. A voice rang out. After which, the crowd only saw Gauze's silhouette dashing out from the formation, accompanied by a few puppets. Although you are slower compared to us three brothers, it's still not bad. The three brothers of the Li clan laughed. Indeed, I'm slower compared to the three of you working together. Sadly, I don't have any good helpers, Gauze faintly said. Clearly, he was referring to the Li clan's three elders. While Gauze was the only one. At this moment, Yantai and the young man from the demon cult also dashed out. However, only one of them remained. Their companions had perished within the formation. Where's little E? Many from the White Deer Institute had expressions of worry on their faces. After which, they called out to Gauze, Grandmaster Gauze, is little E all right? We can't see each other clearly within the formation. She followed that little brat and didn't come with me. I don't know how she's doing, Gauze replied, his words causing those from the White Deer Institute to furrow their brows in worry. Chi! A light sound rang out as the crowd saw the silhouettes of Qin Wentian and Bai Lui. Many in the crowd couldn't help but muse that although Qin Wentian's perception was extremely powerful, the Tao of divine inscriptions wasn't something that could be achieved through pure perception alone. Hence, he was slower than the others in breaking the formation. Okay, they're all out. Fenrir waved his hands, causing a gust of wind to kick up as the flag soared into the air. Fenrir's eyes gleamed with sharpness. He knew everything within the formation like the back of his hand. The three old men from the Li clan and Gauze respectively broke the formation. After which, the young man from the demon cult found a gap in the formation and rushed out, while Yantai used the gap left behind by Gauze to break the formation. He glanced at Qin Wentian before his silhouette flickered, returning to the top of the city walls as he smiled. This young man isn't too bad. Huh. The countenances of the crowd froze. This young man wasn't too bad? Who was this young man referring to? There was also Grandmasters Wu from the Scarlet Thunder sect. Had they all perished within the formation? What a pity. Those from the Scarlet Thunder sect all had unsightly expressions on their faces. Currently, only 4 transcendent powers remained in the star-seizing manner. Watermoon Mountain Villa, the 3 old men from the Li clan, White Deer Institute, Gauze Qin Wentian Bai Lui, Yin clan Yantai, and the young man from the demon cult. Next, they only needed to eliminate one of the transcendent powers to determine the top 3. But who would be eliminated? The gazes of the crowd shifted to the top of the city walls. Yang Fan and the rest calmly gazed in their direction, only to see Fenrir smiling as he announced, next, for the final test, I'll give each of you 2 hours to inscribe your strongest attack type divine inscriptions. Inscribe divine inscriptions? Yantai glared at Qin Wentian as he sinisterly stated, are you not going to act? Lung Ning, she died a miserable death. A cold intent gushed forth from Qin Wentian. His gaze was so sharp that it felt as though it could pierce through Yantai's body, wanting to kill him. Luckily, she died a miserable death. If not, I would have played with her for a long time before refining her into a puppet. How interesting would that be? What a pity. Yantai cackled. Oh yeah, the Lung clan sent a few more maidservants to my place. Can you guess what happened to them? After speaking, Yantai took a step forward and started inscribing his attack type divine inscriptions. The killing intent in Qin Wentian's eyes intensified. However, Gauze indifferently stated, this battle is mine. Qin Wentian coldly glanced at him. You inscribe your inscriptions, I will inscribe mine. Let's not disturb each other. Humph, don't disturb me. Gauze coldly snorted. His gaze was fixed on the 3 old fellows from the Li clan. These 3 old fellows were his true opponents. Qin Wentian and Gauze were separated by a certain distance. Currently, there were only 4 transcendent powers present on the Tao cultivation grounds. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at the sky as a cold smile appeared on his face. Today the person who caused your death shall die here. Qin Wentian murmured, not bothering to conceal his voice. When he lowered his head and stared at Yen Tai, Yen Kong and the rest, the coldness in his eyes caused the blood of those who saw it to freeze. Chapter 256. Yen Tai met Qin Wentian's gaze without the slightest hint of fear. How laughable, this brat actually wanted to kill him instead of saving his own life. With a sinister smile on his face, Yen Tai began to inscribe divine inscriptions. Not only him, the three brothers of the Li clan, Gauze, and the youth from the demon cult also began to inscribe divine inscriptions. The three brothers of the Li clan simultaneously inscribed divine inscriptions in 3 different directions. However, the divine inscriptions they inscribed seemed to be resonating with each other, as though they could fuse together at any moment. This caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. The divine inscriptions they inscribed must be extremely tyrannical. As for Gauze, each and every one of his strokes was filled with boundless majesty. The divine inscriptions he inscribed exuded the aura of a grandmaster. Based on Gauze's reputation, the divine inscriptions he inscribed would definitely be peak tier, 3rd ranked. After all, Finra had given them 2 hours of time to display their abilities. The divine inscriptions inscribed by the young man from the demon cult actually contained a demonic aura, causing the spectators to feel a demonic aura gushing forth. It was extremely intense, and no one dared to underestimate the silent young man from the demon cult. This time around, it's a test of true ability. I wonder who can inscribe the strongest attack type divine inscriptions. Those from the various transcendent powers were all seriously observing the divine inscriptions they were inscribing. They guessed that the 3 brothers of the Li clan had a high possibility of obtaining 1st place. The White Deer Institute, represented by Gauze, would only be able to obtain 2nd place. As for Yen Tai, he might be able to obtain 3rd place. Although the youth from the demon cult was powerful, the other 3 transcendent powers were even stronger. One must know that before the appearance of the 3 brothers in Gauze, Yen Tai's reputation was the highest. Many people believed that the Yen clan would obtain 10 slots to enter the refinement grounds. The members of the Yen clan were all extremely nervous. Those from the Lung clan were also extremely excited. They had paid such a hefty price just for this rare exchange. They didn't even mind sacrificing a female descendant of their clan in exchange for a few slots. They hoped that Yen Tai would be able to obtain 1st place. Lung Jian, how was your exchange with Yen Tai earlier? An elder from the Lung clan, Lung Mao, asked. Lung Jian's countenance was extremely unsightly. He walked towards Lung Mao and whispered. Yen Tai said that he would exchange 1 slot for a female descendant of our Lung clan. Impudent. Lung Mao's expression turned ugly. Hasn't our Lung clan paid enough? Lung Jian was speechless. He lowered his head, not daring to speak. Lung Mao glared at him, causing Lung Jian to speak up. It's all because of that Qin Wentian and Lung Ning. If it weren't for the death of Yen Tai's son, how could things have ended up like this? Lung Ning alone is enough. Humph. Lung Mao snorted. Let's wait and see. Lung Jian nodded his head as he turned his gaze onto the Dao platform. The people there were all focused on inscribing divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian. Lung Jian stared at Qin Wentian, only to see that Qin Wentian was also quietly inscribing divine inscriptions. However, there was no sense of beauty to his inscriptions. There was no pattern to be seen at all, and Lung Jian had no idea what he was inscribing. What the hell is that? Lung Jian coldly laughed. After all, this 3rd-ranked divine inscriptionist was still too young. His ability to inscribe divine inscriptions wasn't good enough. In the direction of the White Deer Institute, the large-eyed elder turned to Bai Luyan and asked, Who do you think has the most exquisite divine inscriptions? Bai Luyan was none other than the divine inscriptionist who had lost to Qin Wentian back in the White Deer Institute. He turned his gaze onto the Dao platform as he replied in a low voice, The divine inscriptions of the 3 brothers of the Li clan and Grandmaster Gauze are the most exquisite. Yen Tai's divine inscriptions are a little strange, exuding a sinister aura, and will be extremely difficult to deal with. The divine inscriptions of the young man from the demon cult are filled with demonic qi, as well as a faint killing intent. The large-eyed elder nodded his head lightly. In that case, between the 3 brothers of the Li clan and Grandmaster Gauze, who do you think will win? I can't be sure. Bai Luyan shook his head. This time around, if the Watermoon Mountain Villa managed to seize the initiative, I'm afraid that they would also be able to obstruct us when we enter the refinement grounds. The large-eyed elder frowned. How about Qin Wentian? What about his divine inscriptions? I don't understand, there's no aura at all. Bai Luyan furrowed his brows. Logically speaking, back then when Qin Wentian fought against him, Qin Wentian was able to inscribe inscriptions in the air with each step he took, causing the shrill of his sword to soar through the air. Qin Wentian's talent in the Tao of divine inscriptions should be extremely high. But at this moment, he couldn't understand the divine inscriptions Qin Wentian was inscribing. On the city walls, the sharp-looking middle-aged man beside Yang Fan asked Fenrir, Grandmaster, how strong are the divine inscriptionists this time around? The star-seizing manor wanted to bring these people into the refinement grounds, but they didn't need just one person. They needed all the top 3 divine inscriptionists. Only then would they be able to work for them after entering the refinement grounds. Not bad. Fenrir smiled as he nodded his head. Not only were they not bad, there were also 2 youths with extremely high potential. The middle-aged man nodded his head lightly. Since Grandmaster Fenrir said that their divine inscriptions weren't bad, they were definitely not bad. Time flowed by and soon 2 hours had passed. Out of the 4 major powers, only 5 of them were inscribing divine inscriptions. This was because Grandmaster Gauze and Qin Wentian from the White Deer Institute were in their own formations. However, Grandmaster Gauze was the most important one. Although Qin Wentian had an extremely high level of perception, this was a test of one's true strength. Most probably, Qin Wentian was just going through the motions casually. At this moment, the spectators could already feel the terrifying aura emanating from the inscribed divine inscriptions. It was extremely powerful, and they could clearly sense the shadow of the inscriptions taking shape. At the location of the 3 brothers of the Li clan, a 3-headed flood dragon appeared, exuding a tyrannical might. Not only that, the 3 flood dragons were linked together. At the location of Grandmaster Gauze, a demonic beast divine inscription appeared as the shadow of an azure dragon shimmered. Since it was an attack-type divine inscription, the beast-type divine inscription was undoubtedly extremely suitable. The divine inscription Yen Tai was inscribing was the most sinister. It was as though there were countless rays of demonic light flickering within, giving off a terrifying feeling. The divine inscription of the young man from the demon cult was inscribing was extremely dense, resembling a purgatory python. His venomous eyes flickered with a terrifying light. How powerful! Almost all of them are 3rd-ranked attack-type divine inscriptions. This should be sufficient to deal with peak-level Yuanfu realm cultivators. These people stood in the center of the divine inscriptions, and could control them as they pleased. Right now, the only thing that didn't reveal its might was Qin Wentian's divine inscriptions. He stood there as a mysterious aura permeated the surroundings. A surge of energy revolved around him, and it was unknown what kind of divine inscriptions he was inscribing. Time's up, Fenrir indifferently stated. The show is about to begin. Yen Tai coldly laughed, as a sinister light flickered in his eyes. Go. The 3 old men from the Li clan pointed out with their fingers. Instantly, the 3-headed flood dragon roared as it dashed towards Gauze. The terrifying 3-headed flood dragon blotted out the skies. Gauze coldly snorted, as the shadow of the azure dragon behind him soared up into the skies. The roar of a dragon reverberated through the air, shaking the entire space. Its sharp claws slashed out, aiming for the heads of the 3-headed flood dragon. Such power! The hearts of the spectators trembled. They saw Gauze soaring up into the skies, transforming into the spirit of a demonic beast. This demonic beast was born from the divine inscriptions, and Gauze was its master. The astral energy in his body frenziedly gushed forth, as the azure dragon and the 3-headed flood dragon clashed against each other. Humph! The 3 old men from the Li clan coldly snorted. They dashed out simultaneously, landing on the heads of the 3-headed flood dragon as they began their frenzied slaughter. Yen Tai and the young man from the demon cult weren't in a hurry. They quietly watched as the battle unfolded. Such a battle was extremely taxing on the user of the divine inscriptions. White Deer Institute. A cold light flickered in Yen Tai's eyes. Seeing the battle between the 2 of them, he stealthily released his astral energy. Abruptly, a gigantic face of the netherworld abruptly lunged forward. As the gigantic face neared the azure dragon, it abruptly took a bite out of it. Instantly, rays of ghostly light seeped into the body of the azure dragon, wreaking havoc within the body of the divine inscriptions. Grandmaster Gauze's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. The three old men from the Li clan didn't hold back as they unleashed their attacks. The azure dragon divine inscriptions continuously disintegrated, and with a groan of agony, Gauze spat out a mouthful of fresh blood as he staggered backwards. He clutched his chest as he stared in the direction of Fenrir. The divine inscriptions he had inscribed weren't weak, but now, he was being attacked by the three old men. "I have my own judgment," Fenrir calmly replied, seeing Gauze's gaze. Gauze nodded his head, but he felt extremely embarrassed. If this was the case, even if Fenrir acknowledged his strength, he would definitely not have a share of the first position. It was extremely likely that the three old men from the Li clan would snatch it away. Not only that, the second position would be in danger. After all, he was the first to be eliminated in the third round. Gauze was filled with hatred. "Gauze, it seems like your strength is only as a old first mocked." In front of the three old men from the Li clan, Gauze didn't have the slightest advantage, not even after 3 rounds. "Humph," Gauze coldly snorted. "This time around I admit defeat. You three against me, what's there to be proud of? I only hate the fact that I didn't have any good helpers." "Grandmaster Gauze, you can't say things like that. During the first round, Qin Wentian already had the intention to help you. Yet you were too arrogant, berating him for reminding you. During the second round, when we needed to join forces, you only cared about breaking the formation by yourself. If the three of us joined forces, we would definitely be able to break the formation even faster." Bai Luyi, who was standing behind Qin Wentian, spoke. Gauze furrowed his brows when he heard Bai Luyi's words. If it wasn't for Bai Luyi's status, he would have already berated her. "I know you are unhappy with the defeat of the White Deer Institute. However, I, Gauze, have done my best," Gauze faintly replied. After which, he shifted his gaze onto Qin Wentian. "This young man assisted me this time around, but he only focused on inscribing the formation. The defeat of the White Deer Institute has nothing to do with me. Don't worry, Grandmaster Gauze. The rewards promised to you will not be small." The large-eyed elder understood Gauze's intentions. Gauze nodded lightly, glancing at the divine inscriptions inscribed by Qin Wentian as he coldly snorted. "What's the use of you in this battle?" After speaking, he flicked his sleeves. "The White Deer Institute hasn't lost yet," Qin Wentian faintly stated, his words causing Gauze's countenance to freeze. However, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he icily stated, "Just because you lost, doesn't mean that the White Deer Institute has lost. If you can't do it, scram." Chapter 257. If you can't do it, then scram. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, a sharp glint of light shot over, especially from Gauze. His brows were as sharp as swords, and a terrifying light flickered in his eyes. As a divine inscriptionist, one could only imagine the coldness in Gauze's heart. A powerful might gushed forth from him, enveloping Qin Wentian. The others were also stunned by Qin Wentian's words. This young man was too arrogant, telling Gauze to scram if he couldn't do it. His tone was incomparably arrogant. "Haha, how interesting. Not only has the White Deer Institute been defeated, it seems like there's going to be internal strife soon." Yantai laughed sinisterly. If Qin Wentian wanted to make a move, he would naturally be more than happy to do so. Only then would he have a chance to kill Qin Wentian. "If you don't give me an explanation, even if you are a guest of the White Deer Institute, I won't let this matter rest," Gauze coldly stated. "Grandmaster Gauze, since you have already been defeated, you should temporarily retreat. The White Deer Institute still wishes to continue fighting." Bai Luyi could tell that Qin Wentian had some confidence in himself. Maybe he really had the ability to inscribe a peak-tier, third-ranked attack-type inscription. Seeing that Gauze wasn't willing to give up, she naturally stood on Qin Wentian's side. Gauze's countenance stiffened as he stared at Bai Luyi. "I was invited here by the White Deer Institute. Without me, how could the White Deer Institute have reached this step? Now that I've been defeated, the White Deer Institute immediately changed their attitude?" A cold light flickered in Bai Luyi's eyes. This gauze actually pointed the spearhead at the White Deer Institute, as though he was blaming them for not treating their guests well. How laughable. In the first round, Qin Wentian was the one who sensed the final divine inscription. Whether Grandmaster Gauze or not, there was no difference. In the second round, although Grandmaster Gauze was defeated, Qin Wentian was the same as me. What's the problem with reaching this round? Since when did you, Gauze, take credit for it? Bai Luyi didn't continue speaking. In the third round, Gauze was directly defeated, and there was nothing for him to do. Since our White Deer Institute has invited Grandmaster Gauze here, we'll still respect you regardless of the outcome. However, Qin Wentian is also a guest of our White Deer Institute. It's one thing for you to lose, but you still have to spout such arrogant words at Qin Wentian. Grandmaster Qin is still fighting for our White Deer Institute. Bai Luyi continued, you, Grandmaster Gauze, have always wanted to prove yourself in this battle. I also wish to reply to Grandmaster Gauze. What's the use of you in this battle? Fine, fine. Gauze's countenance turned ashen. He didn't expect that he would be reprimanded by a junior today. Little E, don't be rude to Master Gauze. In the direction of the White Deer Institute, the large-eyed elder couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he saw how Bai Luyi was clearly helping Qin Wentian. However, the fact that he spoke out to stop Gauze only now showed that he was extremely dissatisfied with Gauze's performance. Earlier, Bai Luyi had already said that Gauze was too busy breaking the formations during the second round, ignoring her and Qin Wentian. Grandmaster Gauze, you can step down for now. Don't disturb others. The large-eyed elder spoke to Gauze. Gauze's countenance sank as he coldly glanced at Qin Wentian. After the exchange, I want to see how you are going to give me an explanation. After speaking, he flicked his sleeves and retreated, as a cold intent permeated the air. Interesting. Yantai smiled. Leave this brat to me. Okay. The three Li clan elders laughed. The first place was already in their bag. Yantai wanting to kill Qin Wentian had nothing to do with them. Let them slowly fight it out. In the direction of the Lung clan, Lung Lin's eyes flickered with a cold light. Kill him. Earlier, she had heard her father's words. Yantai had said that if the Lung clan continued with the exchange, she would be in grave danger. All of this was caused by Qin Wentian. He had to die. Those from the Lung clan all had ice-cold expressions on their faces as they stared at Qin Wentian. This person had to die. If they allowed him to live, he would become a target of hatred for their Lung clan. The young man from the demon cult naturally wouldn't interfere. He merely watched from the sidelines. Yentai's sinister eyes stared at Qin Wentian. Don't worry, I won't let you die so quickly. Before you die, I will make sure you have a good time. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over, his eyes filled with a terrifying killing intent. He had said before that he would definitely kill Yantai today. If Yantai didn't die, how could he face Lung Ning? He had to die, Yen Kong had to die, and Lung Jian had to die. That pitiful and beautiful young lady had died in such a cruel manner. The image of her beautiful smiling face would still resound in Qin Wentian's mind. Those who caused her death would have to pay the price. The first one would be Yantai. Yentai's silhouette slowly rose up into the air as the gigantic face stared at Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian to feel a chill run down his spine. Qin Wentian stepped out as his astral energy circulated. The divine inscriptions he had inscribed finally began to move. The spectators only felt a terrifying vortex churning about madly. This vortex was akin to the roiling clouds, roaring as it rose higher and higher. The terrifying energy within the vortex caused the chi of heaven and earth to frenziedly flow into the vortex. In the center of the vortex, the spectators suddenly felt a terrifying sharpness emanating from it. That was the keening of swords. Countless sharp swords danced about madly within the vortex, transforming into a vortex of swords that pushed forward layer by layer, transforming into a tidal wave of swords. What kind of divine inscription is that? The pupils of the spectators narrowed as they stared at Qin Wentian's divine inscriptions. That surge of sword intent grew more and more terrifying, akin to a rolling snowball that grew stronger and stronger with each passing moment. Yantai coldly snorted, after which, the gigantic face abruptly opened its bloody mouth and lunged towards Qin Wentian's divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian's silhouette soared up into the air along with the sword waves. Abruptly, a terrifying killing intent gushed forth, fusing together with the terrifying sword waves, instantly enveloping the entire space. Die! At this moment, Qin Wentian's finger pressed forward. Instantly, the surging sword waves were akin to a tsunami, gushing forth with a terrifying killing intent that engulfed the entire space. At this moment, only the humming of swords could be heard. Yen Tai's countenance stiffened as his countenance turned extremely unsightly to behold. Specks of ghostly light whistled through the air. Poochie poochie, Yen Tai coldly snorted. The gigantic face of the divine inscriptions howled as it lunged forwards. Despite the millions of swords piercing into it, they couldn't even move an inch. However, Qin Wentian stabbed out with his finger again, causing the whirlpool to churn once more. From within the whirlpool, a gigantic sword manifested, illuminating the 9 heavens. The sword flashed with a cold light, causing the skies to change color. As the sword whistled through the air, the gigantic face of the divine inscriptions was pierced through by the gigantic sword. After which, with a piercing sound, the gigantic face of the divine inscriptions was completely destroyed. The countless swords shot towards Yen Tai, causing his countenance to drastically change. Numerous puppets materialized in the air, blocking in front of him. You violated the rules, Qin Wentian icily stated, as he stabbed out with his finger for the 3rd time. Instantly, the energy of the heavens congregated on the tip of the sword rain. Die! Qin Wentian's countenance was as cold as ice. His swords rained down on Yen Tai's puppets, shattering into pieces. I concede, Yen Tai howled in rage. He sprinted down the platform, only to see a screen of swords descending upon him. The whistling sound of the wind caused him to freeze in his tracks. Chi. Numerous astral swords rained down on Yen Tai's surroundings, riddling the space around him with holes. Yen Tai turned his head to look at Qin Wentian, who was standing in the middle of the screen of astral swords. His countenance paled. How could he have imagined that a 3rd-rank divine inscriptionist would be able to inscribe such a peak-level divine inscription? In the air, the eyes of the young and powerful 3rd-rank divine inscriptionist gleamed with sharpness. Sword chi revolved around him, and the killing intent in his eyes caused Yen Tai to feel a bone-piercing chill in his bones. I've already conceded, you are not allowed to act. Yen Tai roared in rage. You've already violated the rules, or you'd already be dead. Qin Wentian indifferently stated, I've said it before. Today I will definitely kill you. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian stabbed out with his finger, causing Yen Tai's countenance to turn deathly pale. Numerous swords pierced into Yen Tai's body. In an instant, Yen Tai's body was riddled with holes, and a gigantic sword was embedded into his head. His entire countenance was twisted with malevolence, incomparably terrifying. Today I will definitely kill you. As Qin Wentian's voice echoed in the air, Yen Tai's body twitched. A soft sound rang out as blood rained down from the sky. Yen Tai's body was instantly annihilated, transforming into dust by the countless swords. Yen Tai dead. The divine inscriptionist with the highest chance of obtaining first place in this exchange had fallen in the hands of a young 3rd-rank divine inscriptionist, Qin Wentian. Once upon a time he was a 3rd-rank divine inscriptionist that only a few people knew of. He used the most domineering method to kill Yen Tai. The countenances of those from the Yen clan abruptly changed. Yen Tai was dead? His death meant that in this exchange, their Yen clan would no longer be able to obtain one of the top 3 spots. Those from the Yen clan had also heard of the grudge between Qin Wentian and Yen Tai, but they didn't really care. They believed that Yen Tai would deal with Qin Wentian. But now, Qin Wentian had actually killed Yen Tai. Their gazes were filled with intense hatred when they stared at Qin Wentian. Yen Kong was also filled with hatred, but at the same time, his body was trembling uncontrollably. How could this be? Qin Wentian had actually killed Yen Tai? How could this be true? Those from the Lung clan were similarly stunned speechless. Yen Tai had died. In that case, the slot for their Lung clan was like a bubble. Even if they had someone to exchange for it, they wouldn't have the chance to do so. their Lung clan could forget about obtaining even a single slot. Not only that, the person who had personally destroyed their hopes and killed Yen Tai was none other than the person they had once given up on, Qin Wentian. Once Qin Wentian was so close to the Lung clan. But for the sake of Yen Tai, they had sent Lung Ning away and forced her to commit suicide. They had personally caused a person who could have been a friend to become an enemy. Chapter 258. Lung Mao's countenance turned ashen. He clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. After paying such a huge price and giving so many benefits to Yen Tai, what did their Lung clan gain in the end? Yen Tai was dead. For the sake of a few slots, they had sacrificed Lung Ning, shouldered the curse of infamy, and even offended Qin Wentian. And now Qin Wentian had used divine inscriptions to defeat Yen Tai. What did this mean? The Lung clan was like a joke. Well done. At this moment, a voice rang out from the direction of the Lung clan. It was none other than Lung Ning's father. When he saw Qin Wentian killing Yen Tai, he felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. After Lung Ning's death, he knew that as her father, he had let her down. Lung Mao coldly glanced at him. Lung Jian barked, "You shut up." "Me shut up?" Lung Ning's father coldly laughed back. "Then who was the one who gave the order to kill my daughter, Lung Ning, and to give up on Qin Wentian?" After which, they did everything they could to curry favor with Yen Tai. Now that Yen Tai is dead, Qin Wentian will be the one to receive the slot. Lung Jian's face was ashen. Feeling the sharp gazes of the elders above him, his heart trembled. Such a scandal had occurred and they had paid such a huge price. Who would bear the responsibility for this matter? Lung Mao was an elder, so he would definitely be fine. But what about him, Lung Jian? The gazes of the crowd all turned to Qin Wentian. At this moment, Qin Wentian's aura was as cold as ever. His killing intent permeated the air as he stared in the direction of the Yen clan. A violent aura gushed forth from him, and everyone could feel the coldness radiating from him. "The next one is you." Qin Wentian pointed his finger at Yen Kong. In an instant, Yen Kong felt as though his entire body had been plunged into an icy abyss. Qin Wentian's words were akin to an announcement of his death. Qin Wentian's gaze was like a sharp sword piercing through his heart. Thinking of the psychological trauma caused by Qin Wentian the last 2 times, his body trembled slightly. The fear was extremely strong. He was truly afraid of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian was like a curtain of darkness that enveloped him, causing him to be unable to see the light. "He killed Uncle. Kill him. Kill him." Yen Kong's body trembled as he pointed at Qin Wentian. He then turned his gaze onto the members of the Yen clan, only to see them all coldly staring at him, causing Yen Kong's heart to tremble violently. "You're the one who caused this?" An old man glared at Yen Kong as though he wanted to tear Yen Kong apart. He had heard that Yen Kong and Qin Wentian had a grudge against each other. After which, Yen Kong brought Yen Tai's son to kill Qin Wentian, resulting in the death of Yen Tai's son. After which, Yen Tai's rage grew and he forced the death of a woman that Qin Wentian loved, resulting in the enmity between them. Initially they didn't care about it. But now that Yen Tai was dead, the Yen clan was no longer fated to participate in this trial. All of this was because of Yen Kong. He even caused a genius divine inscriptionist to view the Yen clan with hatred. And this genius divine inscriptionist was backed by the White Deer Institute. From today onwards, Yen Kong shall be expelled from the Yen clan. His life and death have nothing to do with the Yen clan. That old man coldly stated. In an instant, Yen Kong felt his mind going blank as his vision turned blank. The Yen clan expelled him from the clan? What was this? Without the Yen clan he would die. Qin Wentian would definitely not spare him. "Father." Yen Kong turned his gaze onto his father, only to hear the old man continuing, "If you want to help him, follow him to the afterlife." Yen Kong's father paled as he glanced at Qin Wentian. He understood that the elders of the Yen clan would only consider their own interests when making decisions. Now that Yen Tai was dead, there was no longer any meaning in seeking revenge. So what if they killed Qin Wentian? They would only offend the White Deer Institute. There was no benefit to them at all. What should they do in such a situation? give up on Yin Kong and cut all ties with him. This way, no matter how much Qin Wentian hated Yin Kong, he wouldn't be able to direct his hatred towards the Yin clan. As long as Qin Wentian was a little smarter, he would know that the Yin clan had the intention of sacrificing Yin Kong. Father. Yin Kong's eyes turned red when he saw his father not speaking. Back then they forced the Lung clan to sacrifice Lung Ning. Now the Yin clan wanted to sacrifice him? Yin Kong. At this moment a cold voice rang out. Yin Kong turned his head, only to see Qin Wentian standing in the air, exuding an intense killing intent. Yin Kong's countenance instantly paled. Retribution. Today you shall die as well. Qin Wentian flicked his finger, and in an instant, a torrent of sword intent gushed forth. Yin Kong only felt a towering sword intent locking onto his body. He soared up into the air, yet the sword light pierced right through him. Piercing sounds rang out as Yin Kong's body fell from the air. Yin Kong dead. Let's go. The elder from the Yin clan flicked his sleeves and departed. The body of Yin Kong's father trembled as he walked to the side of Yin Kong. Lifting his head, he coldly glanced at Qin Wentian before following the members of the Yin clan and departing the area. Qin Wentian understood that the Yin clan hated him, but they weren't willing to form an enmity with him. Yin Kong's father hated him even more, but the Yin clan wouldn't allow him to seek revenge. This was the result of the talent and strength he had displayed. The actions of the Yin clan had greatly affected the Lung clan. They were pondering how they should handle this matter. Qin Wentian's hatred for the Lung clan was definitely not any weaker than his hatred for the Yin clan. They were the ones who forced Lung Ning to her death. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he returned to his original location. When Qin Wentian killed Yin Tai and Yin Kong, the Li clan's three brothers and the youth from the demon cult hadn't interfered. They had personally witnessed the power of Qin Wentian's divine inscriptions, and could sense how terrifying they were. Naturally, they were more than willing to exhaust Qin Wentian. However, at this moment, the Li clan's three brothers and the youth from the demon cult already had an ominous feeling in their hearts. Qin Wentian's performance in the third round, in addition to his miraculous perception during the first round, had already placed him as the #1 ranker in the heart of Grandmaster Fenrir. Not only that, the White Deer Institute didn't only have Qin Wentian, they also had Gauze and Bai Lu Yi. Even the weakest among them, Bai Lu Yi, was extremely powerful. Even if there was some internal strife, it wouldn't be able to mask the overall strength of the White Deer Institute. If Qin Wentian really joined forces with Gauze, the White Deer Institute would have long since been defeated. Not bad, you are much stronger compared to that old man Gauze. What a joke. He was still boasting shamelessly earlier. The Li clan's eldest brother stared at Qin Wentian, admiration in his eyes. Such a young peak-tier third-rank divine inscriptionist was truly impressive. Not to mention the perception he had displayed during the first round was truly shocking. Gauze's countenance turned ashen when he heard this. Earlier, when Qin Wentian had displayed his prowess in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions, his countenance had already turned extremely ugly. His words were too arrogant. "Senior, please guide me." Qin Wentian calmly stared at the Li clan's three brothers, the coldness radiating from his body retracted by several degrees. Yin Tai and Yin Kong had already died. Next, it was time for him to obtain the #1 ranking for the White Deer Institute. Haha, just call me Uncle Li. We don't deserve the title of senior. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Let me take a look at your prowess in divine inscriptions. The Li clan's eldest brother was in an extremely good mood when he heard Qin Wentian addressing him as senior. His tone was also much more polite. This was how humans were. If others respected them, they would return the respect. Naturally, this was built on the basis that both parties were equal. If it weren't for the fact that Qin Wentian had displayed his prowess, the Li clan's three brothers wouldn't have been so polite to him. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. Stepping forward, he waved his palms as a terrifying sword intent gushed forth once more. Millions upon millions of sharp swords frenziedly slashed out. The Li clan's three brothers floated in the air as their three flood dragons blasted out, colliding with the millions upon millions of sharp swords. The swords and flood dragons intertwined in a frenzy, as violent roars reverberated through the air. The sound of the swords whistling through the air was exceptionally ear-piercing, as the air currents around them grew even more violent. Qin Wentian stepped forward, his finger unceasingly pointing forward. As though with him as the center, countless resplendent gigantic swords erupted forth, with no end in sight. Finally, a roar rang out as one of the flood dragons was destroyed by the swords. Haha, well done, I concede. The Li clan's eldest brother laughed heroically. Qin Wentian waved his palms as the sword chi dissipated. Uncle Li's divine inscriptions are powerful. I'm only slightly better than you. Don't be so humble. There are 3 of us while you are the only one. Not only that, we are several tens of years younger than you, we are not even qualified to be your disciples. The Li clan's eldest brother waved his hands as he laughed. We 3 brothers will definitely be friends with you. Don't look down on us. A smile also appeared on Qin Wentian's face. After which, the Li clan's eldest brother turned his gaze onto the young man from the demon cult as he stated, "You are so young as well, what a blow to my confidence. Let's give it a try." Right. The young man from the demon cult nodded his head. After which, the gigantic python formed from divine inscriptions lunged forth, clashing against the 2 remaining flood dragons. After a series of frenzied clashes, the young man from the demon cult was defeated. Ultimately, his divine inscriptions were still a notch weaker than the young man from the demon cult. Qin Wentian killed Yen Tai and defeated the 3 brothers from the Li clan, while the divine inscriptions of the 3 brothers defeated the young man from the demon cult. The rankings were already set in stone. What a twist in the road. The large-eyed elder laughed uproariously. He initially thought that the White Deer Institute wouldn't be able to obtain first place, but who would have thought that Qin Wentian would give him such a pleasant surprise? This young man isn't bad. The old man beside the large-eyed elder spoke. All of a sudden, his heart trembled as he exchanged a glance with the large-eyed elder, after which, their gazes shifted to Fenrir, who was floating in the air. Grandmaster Fenrir had also said that this young man wasn't bad. From the looks of it, it was obvious who this young man was referring to. A smile appeared on Grandmaster Fenrir's face as he nodded his head. The results of this exchange can be considered as satisfactory. The White Deer Institute naturally obtained first place, the Watermoon Mountain Villa obtained second, and the Demon Cult obtained third. The result of Grandmaster Fenrir's announcement was already within the expectations of the spectators. Some were disappointed, some were shocked, and some were happy. Bai Lui, on the other hand, was extremely happy. The White Deer Institute had obtained first place. Not only that, it was because of Qin Wentian. How could she be happy? Gauze's countenance was extremely ugly to behold. He had arrogantly said that he wanted Qin Wentian to give him an explanation. But now, did Qin Wentian even need to give him an explanation? Haha. Gauze, let me give you a word of advice. In this exchange, what use does the White Deer Institute have for you? The voice of the Li clan's eldest brother drifted over, his words extremely piercing to Gauze's ears. These were the words he had given to Qin Wentian, but now, it was more appropriate to use them on him. What use did they have for him? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.